June 15th, and I will call the meeting to order. Let's take attendance. Jane Lyon. Present. Scott Gillette. Present. Adele Torres. Present. Liz Snow. Absent. Timothy Hamilton. Present. Patrick Estes. Absent. And Emily Bell. Absent. All right, and we do not have any audience participation today, so that puts us at item 2A, discussion and action regarding the designation of park themes. Maria Hernandez.
So, Madam Chairman, my name is Susie Victor Trevino. It does say Maria Hernandez, but I'm going to briefly introduce myself. I have not had the privilege to see this board in a very, very long time. So, I am currently in the Public Works Department, and I am over planning and zoning, and I also assist with economic development. So today we are here to discuss the planning of the parks when it comes to themes. I think Maria is going to put the PowerPoint on the screens, but I have also provided some printouts of them. So going to just briefly introduce what a theme is. So a theme is, when it comes to a park, is the central idea, the style, or the concept that shapes how a park is designed and experienced. We have some examples within the PowerPoint that you can see. I believe we're having some technical difficulties, but I'm just going to continue with the presentation just because you'll have that in hand. On that second slide, you see that the top two photo images show a theme of an aircraft / aviation type. Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. Now you should see it on your screen.
Okay, perfect. Got it.
No, we can't find the control.
Okay. Okay, so on the top slide, you can see that there is an aviation type theme. Do want to just point out that some of these pictures are obviously above and beyond. I want to be realistic in the sense that I know that they're not going to be achievable for every park, but we just wanted to include them so that we understand what we mean by the themes when we're going through the slides. So just want to give that disclaimer. The bottom two pictures are a very good example of what a subtle theme can look like. So you see that this theme is actually a butterfly theme. On those top pillars on the bottom, they have some butterflies as the toppers. And then they have a climbing structure that has a butterfly incorporated. So that just shows the vast difference of how we can go from a very complex theme to a very simplistic theme as well. On the right hand, you just have some trains just as a reference, so you can see some more complex things that we can incorporate within the park system. Okay. Here we have another example of a park not too far from us. This is from the city of Mansfield. So they have a nature type theme that is very apparent throughout their park. Obviously, it's a very larger style park, but again, just wanted to show you what we're referring to when we are describing a theme. Okay, here's another example of an aquatic type theme. We actually have a park at Highland Station that is lily pads. And so I thought this was a really good example of the bottom left corner showing how we can incorporate that existing theme and add on to it. And that is essentially what we're going to discuss. We have a lot of existing playground structures that are new that we want to elaborate on. But with that, our goals is to Develop and maintain a clear theme throughout the park system, ensuring that every element contributes to a cohesive vision. By using this theme to guide decisions about attractions, landscaping, amenities, and overall guest experiences, we can create a park where each addition feels purposeful and connected to the overall identity rather than appearing random or out of place. So that's essentially why we wanted to introduce the themes, so that we're making decisions once the playground structures are decided upon, or if we're in the beginning processes of evaluating what to add on, we have that theme, that foundation essentially to help guide our decisions. Okay, briefly about our park systems. We have 7 parks. All of them are very different in character. We have a couple of neighborhood parks, and then we have larger parks like the Willow Creek system that has some other amenities that some of the other park systems don't have to offer, such as trails. We have pickleball courts and other things that differentiate that. Okay, so I'm essentially going to go park by park and briefly introduce some themes that we're going to suggest. Now, I don't expect us to make a decision on all of these today, but we just briefly wanted to introduce each one, and if y'all are ready to go on some of these parks and the themes, we can definitely make decisions today. Okay? So the first one is Brian Schwengler Park. As y'all know, we've had an opening ceremony for that park not too long ago. Obviously, the playground structure is new. It is installed, so we chose some themes that we can bounce off the existing structure. As you see, we have some nature type plants that are within the flooring of the park. We have some playground structures that have canopy trees, some roots, some animals, and some explorers within the park. Thus, that takes us to our theme suggestions of nature, explorer, and or a jungle. Okay, so the first theme is nature explorer. As y'all recall, the theme for our opening ceremony was actually nature explorers. So we were trying to have the POV of a child entering that as a little explorer. You're coming in with your magnifying glass, walking through the park, and going on an adventure. So with that, you know, we obviously have the canopy trees, some of the animals there. So we were thinking from a point of view where you can easily integrate those into an adventure from a kid's standpoint. But we were thinking that you can add on to that as well by incorporating structures like that log that you can climb in, you can interact with, you can play hide and seek. So there are different things that you can incorporate to the park. It doesn't have to be a large item. It could be a smaller item, such as the educational kiosk on the bottom right. Essentially, we can incorporate little hide and seek adventures or exploration. You know, moms and dads are always looking for different ideas when you're at the park, when your little kid gets bored. So we were thinking that we can make it an educational and interactive thing as well. So that's how we can integrate the exploration portion of it as well. Our next theme for Brian Schwengler that we are recommending is a jungle theme. This also, in our opinion, serves as something Sorry, the clicker is a little behind. Oh, it's going the wrong way. Oh, sorry about that. So you see in that bottom right image, we have a giraffe depicted. We have some other jungle type animals. You could make the argument that the canopy trees could also remind you of a jungle. You have an frog on the bottom that you could see in a jungle as well. So you have different attributes that also resemble that. So we, again, selected 2 themes that we think can provide both of these atmospheres, but they're a little bit different in the sense of where we can go. So I don't know if you guys have opinions on those themes or if we want to finish the entire presentation and then share our thoughts, but there's a lot of parks, so it'd probably be a little bit more strategic if we go one by one.
I like the idea of sticking with the nature explorer, and like you said, it does have those jungle elements that are already on the play structures as existing right now. And when we did our meeting with the community, that's the theme they wanted to stick to with that park. So I think it would make sense to continue to play onto that theme with
Okay.
Ryan.
So you prefer the nature explorer over the jungle?
I like both of them. I don't know if what do you guys think? Do you think
What's
can we take
stopping
elements
us?
from both?
Yeah, like what's stopping us from pulling elements from both?
I like the idea of pulling from both, or do we have to say it's all nature or it's all jungle?
The idea would be to choose one theme so that we know the clear foundation of what we're going to do, but we can always modify it to where we kind of incorporate different elements of both. I just think it may be a little sticky if we go to 2. We have to find a way to clearly identify
Okay.
what it is that we would like to see.
Like the leaf climbing structure, that could play on nature and jungle, so we can kind of find elements that would tie into both, maybe without being a clear, distinctive line, or we need to absolutely say all nature, we don't want to see any more safari animals. Is that what you're looking for?
No, so in our opinion, the nature explorer is more based off the understanding of we're exploring, we have nature elements, so you could theoretically have the safari in there. It just wouldn't be everything has to be safari type related.
Okay.
Whereas if y'all were to decide with this just straight safari, it would be more oriented towards having safari elements all throughout.
My question would be, what is the feature that is most needed by the children at that park for now? Is there another slide needed or another swing set needed? And then, once we decide what's the actual play feature, then we can find what either nature or safari if marries into that. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is needed there?
So what we're thinking is we would decide on the theme so that before even thinking about what we're going to add next, we already know what we're sticking to,
I
the
see.
idea, the concepts. It's basically just a tool that we can utilize so that when we're adding that extra step, like what is the new thing that we need to have as a feature, we know what we're wanting to do. Because theoretically, right now, we don't have a theme. If I wanted to add a circus feature, and that's really what the Parks Board wanted in 5 years, then that is what they possibly could do. But if we were to pick a theme today, then we know that we're kind of sticking to it in general for the next X amount of years, unless they change it.
Okay, because I love that caterpillar. I'm not quite sure what it is, though, other than, is it a balance beam?
It's just a climbing structure, so you can play on top of it. Some of them may have one where you can crawl in them. It's just an example of what we're showing you. It's not specifically what we would recommend you adding. It's just to depict the nature explorer idea, just to kind of set the scene. Yeah.
Because what we've been talking about at the last meeting was the potential of establishing at most parks, maybe not all of them, because some of them are kind of small, a segment of each park to be a wildflower place, and I think that any kind of butterfly or caterpillar nature explorer would marry beautifully, even in the Brian Schwengler, which is a small park, even if there was just a corner where we had a wildflower garden with a butterfly or caterpillar theme rather than another giraffe.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah, so that would be the great thing about Nature Explorer. It's still broad enough to where we can integrate landscape elements or vegetation nature landscape elements from it as well. But, you know, if you were to go safari, it would be a little bit more difficult to integrate that. And obviously the theme is not where we have to stick to it to a T, right? But ideally we would want to be able to stay within that framework so that we can purposely make those decisions.
Gives us a guideline.
Yes. So if y'all were to go with Nature Explorer, we can definitely still add safari type,
Yeah.
but it just wouldn't be the framework for it.
That's what I'm gearing towards. I wouldn't want to go all in on safari. I really like the idea of sticking with the Nature Explorer, and like you said, we can pick and choose those elements to play
Yes.
off of, but that more so is the direction that we're going to.
Yes.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any?
Yeah, so I have a little bit of hesitation about theming everything. Because part of play is imagination, and also each neighborhood, you know, may be different, but we also may have an overarching theme that is common to our community, such as one of the themes that we see throughout and all of us experience, maybe late at night too, the train horn. So obviously train is a very prominent theme, and would be expected to be seen in different places, like it is over on the north end of Willow Creek Park, and you know, what we're talking about possibly doing down by the tennis courts and stuff like that. So sometimes that informs your selection as to what the theme might be. But to, you know, on a smaller park like this one, and even Opal Joe Jennings or any of those others that are smaller, I think it's a little hard to try to come up with a theme when in the biggest part of it is just having your basic play elements and having, you know, a sidewalk and a picnic pavilion and stuff like that without going into. And then the other part of this is theming and going down that road where you're having roto-molded products and you're having all of this special custom stuff that drives that price very high, very fast too. So those are some concerns that I have when I'm looking at those type of things with this. They look cool, they're awesome, but then if you do one here, one here, one here, all over just different, it's like, what's the cohesiveness to it?
Yeah, and I definitely understand that. I think the cohesiveness would be to go back to that theme and have everything, not necessarily a good example of that would be the safari theme. If we were to really stick to that, to, you know, where you're having a more detailed theme, you're having to stick to that quickly. But something as broad as Nature Explorer really opens up your horizons to where we don't necessarily have to only get something that's a little bit more expensive if it's a playground structure, right? We can have something a little bit generic, like even Mrs. Lyon's example of something where it's just wildflowers. That's not a very expensive thing that we have to add on to it, but it definitely still fits the theme to where we're doing something very purposeful. Right now, we have some playground structures that don't have a theme, right? A lot of our products don't, but that makes it more difficult for y'all and staff to make decisions on what to bring to the table if we're adding on to that, right? If we have a theme that would help assist us in, hey, we're not even looking at this playground, this type of playground structure, we're able to look at this based off the theme. Now, it doesn't have to be a very specific theme like that butterfly example, where it's just subtle, very subtle aspects of the theme are what make up that theme. Now, you can take it as complicated as you want, right? Which would probably not be advisable, right? Because then that's when you're racking up the change. I think we would start subtly and make minor changes. Obviously, we already have a really great playground structure for Brian Schwengler. That's a very new element. But I think we would be able to enhance our parks by being able to stick to those themes and adding things very purposefully. We actually do have a theme that includes trains, so I won't jump too ahead. But I did want to just let you know that we do have that. We think that when it comes to the neighborhood parks, obviously we already have some new playground structures in some of them, so we were just basing that off of that theme, so that, again, we're not adding things that are very straying away from that original intent, right? So again, I bring up the example of bringing a circus elephant to something where we have train and green or train railways. It just wouldn't make sense, right?
Right.
So I think that's more of the standpoint we're coming from. It's not something where we have to see trains everywhere.
Right.
It's subtle hints here and there that help when you're walking that trail, you understand that, hey, we're in a train system town, or your experience is purposeful, where if we were to have trail markers that had trains and the theme was trains, it helps guide that planning for the future, where we know as staff and as the board, hey, we can easily incorporate this into this design. But that's more of the standpoint that we're taking with the themes. It's not that the basketball courts have to have a nature explorer portion into it. It's more so just the overall ambiance of the environment is to fit that. And again, that also allows kids to have that interactive play and have that imagination. It makes it easier for them to, if it's a fire truck, for example, they already know what they're working with, but they can still take that to the next level of when they're playing, hey, I'm the chief, but you're XYZ, you know? So it can also assist in play as well.
So I do like the nature theme, because you can also, if you did that across multiple of the parks, you could even do some kind of like scavenger hunt where you're trying to find the lizard on one of the, because you can get the different playground panels to have different images on there and, kind of, go touch the,
Why,
Interactive
why wouldn't we think about gamifying this? And what I mean by that is that you're going to create a theme for each one of them. So there's this theme, there's this ideology behind it, it has that identity. So we could absolutely gamify it, right? You could have some sort of QR code there that, to your point, it could be a scavenger hunt. It could be, look at these unique things at the park. Specifically, here's our Buena Vista that we want you to go see, whatever it is. And as people achieve that, right, you could maybe track it someplace on the website or something like that, where it's like, you've been to all these spots and congratulations, you're now a nature explorer. I don't know, right?
Yes. And so that's exactly what we did for the opening of the Brian Schwengler Park. We had a scavenger hunt for the kids to do at the beginning, and they got to wear their nature explorer hat. They had magnifying glasses. Maria did an excellent job at prepping their goodie bags and the scavenger hunt, but it's small, easily things that we can do like that. Like if it was a QR code, we can constantly change that without having to spend a lot of money. But we know that the theme for those scavenger hunts or those activities, or if the library was going to do an activity there, we know what the overall theme is.
Yeah, I love it. With a dynamic QR, you could just change the destination every time and just leave that QR up forever in perpetuity. So, and just change the landing page. So.
Yeah.
So, Nature Explorer.
I think so.
Yep.
Okay. So. Okay. I'll make the noise. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay. So our next park is Highland Station. If you walk through this park, you automatically get a very nature type feel as well. The trails are are really beautiful in the sense that there's a lot of trees. We obviously have an element to it that no other park has with the skate park as well, so we could branch off that as well. Highland Station has 2 playgrounds that are also relatively new. We have the right bottom that is a lily pad type playground structure, and then the top, it's kind of generic. Okay, so the 2 themes that we're proposing for Highland Station is either a nature center or an adventure park. Okay. This one's a little similar to the Explorer aspect, but the major difference is that it's more so a nature center where it teaches you a little bit more about what's going on, right? You can take that where we're right behind Highland Station Middle School, we're right behind the elementary school, so we can take it to where you even have an outdoor learning classroom. Sorry, was I too close? You could do different things of that element where it's your typical nature center type, but incorporate that to where it could be a city facilitated adventure, right? On this, we would be looking at more of that interactive learning as well. On the top left, we have an example of a learning center where kids can go and do an activity, and we don't have to do anything periodically. It's just a standalone center. We see this a lot in schools when it comes to like a weather center, things of that sort. We can incorporate different things like logs, acorns, different type of wood that just reminds you of what you would see when you're on a walk through a nature reserve, a nature center. With this one, I did want to point out that we already had the lily pad structure on the right end of the park. And so we added an example with that ducks and the lily pads as well, or the, what would you call those? The plant that also goes in the pond. You could easily just add to that and add the ducks, or you could add the frogs, you could add a different animal. So again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel that we currently have, but we can add onto it so that we can enhance our parks. For this example, the top right has like a camper, so if you're going to a campsite, you're learning about different nature things with your kids, you would have, you know, a different campground. So the signage on that one is a good example of how you could easily integrate that signage to also be a part of the experience. Alternatively, we have an adventure park theme. Again, just going back to that skate park, that is something that very much differentiates the Highland Station park system. With this, it's a little bit more difficult when we're visualizing that lily pad playground structure that we have. So we were thinking about going outside the box, and we're still including playground structures that incorporate the adventure aspect of it, but with that, we would stick more to integrating aspects of nature, like the frog or the dragonfly, so kids can jump off that and have an adventure still, but we're still integrating that within what we currently have. Obviously, with the blue and orange playground structure, it's a little bit easier to incorporate anything into it, just because it doesn't have anything that really sticks out as a theme. But the only caveat would be that lily pad playground. So that's kind of what we were thinking with the adventure park, just something that is a little bit more of a, let's go, we can jump off the walls, or a rock. Obviously, this is going to have to be age appropriate depending on the playground structure, right? If it's a little bit, I'm not going to allow my toddler, for example, to go on that big climbing structure, right? But there are some daredevils out there that can handle that and more. So it would definitely be age appropriate. We would incorporate that with the existing skate park and kind of see how we can integrate that. But the idea is just adventure is out there. With that, would open it up to if y'all have any comments on either or.
Whenever I pick up my grandkids from High Country Elementary and we're back there, there's usually groups of 4 to 6 children playing together. And a lot of times I'm seeing kids go over to the creek. They're looking at what's in the creek and, you know, what's in the water. And you see 3 kids bending over the creek, and then all of a sudden everybody wants to know, what are they looking at? And so, yes, I love the whole nature part because Highland Station Park is very nature oriented. And I know, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, but I know that Public Works or whoever the mowing crew was purposely didn't mow some areas because they were low lying and they were kind of muddy, but they grew wildflowers. And you know, I love wildflowers, and I think everybody loves wildflowers. But yes, I love the frog and the butterfly, the dragonfly, as long as they're like more than decorative. If there's something that they're actually doing with those in the upper left-hand corner, those would, I think, integrate really well because of the colors too of that park. My daughter-in-law calls it the orange park because it's got so much orange on it. But yeah, that's a wonderful park, and a lot of kids get picked up there or go there. Like I pick them up at the back of the school, and they hang out with the snow cone machine or bus and hang out in the covered area and play in groups of kids. And there's a lot of older kids, they're 5th graders right after school they're playing there too, but middle schoolers start coming over there and kind of hanging out as well. So I think, you know, some kind of a play structure where middle schoolers could have fun too would be a good one to add.
And easily just even incorporating like simple stumps for kids to sit down and wait for their car ride. We could also look at different things like that when it comes to different age groups as well.
Yeah, I think that's important that you mentioned the different age groups, because when I think about, we sit over there almost every night watching my daughter practice baseball. And I think about who's all out there, and there's tons of kids, but there's probably as many adults walking, working out. There's always a gaggle of kids over at the skate park. There's people playing on the tennis courts. And so it really is not just a kid park. And I think about, you know, there used to be all those workout stations. And now, I mean, you can't go over there without people that are out for health reasons walking. And you know, there's as many or more people walking right now than there are even kids playing on the playgrounds. And so thinking about, I love the adventure aspect of that, because then you get kind of the best of both worlds. I would even propose that at some point we probably should with as much spaces out there, probably put a baseball diamond out there. Because I mean, there's probably a dozen teams that practice out there every day. So I mean, yeah, it's a multifunctional park for sure.
I have to agree. I like the idea of the nature center because it's so green, it's so open. You get that feeling. The creek is there, the exploratory of it all. I think we can find a lot of really great elements that would play off of the nature center. And then even to incorporate, you know, like you have some big, crazy kind of climbing structures under adventure, but that could easily still tie into the nature depending on, you know, what color scheme we go with. So I think with the nature, you can still kind of get the best of both worlds between the two.
And that's another question, is the plan to stick with the color schema that's there now, or are we gonna try to retheme consistently with the overarching theme, or what's the plan there?
Yeah, so today we're just discussing the theme aspects of it. Obviously the playground structures are still relatively new, so I don't think that they would be replaced anytime soon. Now, if y'all wanted to repaint them or anything like that, that's definitely up to y'all, right? But I think that if we wanted to incorporate a color system as well, we can definitely do that. That would just be a separate step, and I can make note of that. I think the first part of just today's intent is just to set up a theme, if possible, for each park. But I think that's a great thing as well to think about, because when we have something as vibrant as orange and blue, And then we have another playground structure that's a little bit more meat when it comes to green and browns. I can see why we would want to identify that as well. So I will make note of that.
Color plays in theme.
Yes, I.
In looking at these pictures, I am seeing now that it's kind of like at the 3 o'clock position, and it's got cattails as part of the playground structure.
Cactus.
Yes, the reeds
Yes,
by the
yes.
creek, and the duck. And that's one of the things that that park doesn't have, is those spring things where you can rock back and forth. So the duck, and there are mallards, by the way, who do hang out in that park, in that creek. We hear them every evening, and when we're at the other Highland playground, usually just before dusk, there's a pair that go hang out there. So I think the ducks, adding some ducks too, would be appropriate if we wanted to add, those types of activities.
I like the nature center one as well. I think the section where it's at with the creek and all of that and the woods too, back past the tennis courts a bit towards, Blue Mound. I don't know how far back our property goes. Does it go all the way out to Blue Mound? Okay. Yeah, so all of that's kind of a bit of a natural space. Not a lot of woods, but still that nature kind of
Yeah,
thing.
towards Blue Mound, there's a lot of treescape for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Next, we're briefly just going to skip over, but mention Kiwani's Park. I know that this is actually going to be an item on y'all's agenda today, so I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but I know that y'all are discussing whether y'all want to keep it as a veterans or have it as an active service memorial. So for our purposes, we're going to let y'all make that decision and then kind of go back from that. But I think whatever decision I'll go that, we'll be able to pick that off that. Okay. Our next one is Opal Joe Jennings. This is another playground that we have a new playground structure. There is a lot of vibrant retro colors, shapes. Notably, we had that spin racer type of panel. So we went off that and did a speed racer theme. With that, these are some examples of some things. It was a little bit difficult to find some examples, so bear with me, but let's walk through this idea of we can incorporate some automobiles, some race cars, right? That is something simple where we can have kids be able to interact with that. You could also use interactive board type play where people of all abilities can use that. They can go up to them and have a little race car race with either aspect of it. You can take that and go above and beyond and add an actual racetrack to it, whether it be an actual rubberized system with its own race type bikes or whatever we're using, or you can just add a simple yellow striped chalk or paint system throughout the sidewalk or XYZ. But in general, we would just incorporate subtle race car type elements. The other theme that we got from that was futuristic. So again, going back to the geometrical shapes that were used, the colors that were used, we're kind of thinking like aliens, planets, different types of things like that. But obviously these are a little bit more difficult to visualize based off our examples. So we also, when we're speaking to Kimley Horn, we understand that this is a memorial park. Originally, when they were discussing this, they were thinking whimsical. With that, I think once we talked to them, we understood that the whimsical portion was more so, adding some of the shapes, the colors, the retro. So we know that those discussions may have been made with y'all as well. So for this one, we're really just trying to get your opinion on it.
Well,
to touch on that, when we did the town hall meeting, we did have the input of the community, and whimsical was the chosen theme already for this park. So I personally don't really feel connected to Speed Racer or futuristic, especially I understand that we have the Speed Racer one panel element. I don't think that that one panel should be the deciding factor in the direction of the theme of this park. I would like to stick with the theme that was chosen with whimsical. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I personally don't like the Speed Racer or the futuristic for Opal Joe.
I wasn't here for that discussion with the community, but it's funny that exact word is what popped up into my head when we were talking about this, the whimsical, and that's, to me, a great word to just,
To stick with kind of the theme
Yeah.
for this one,
you know.
I think. I mean, what do you guys think?
I think that if that's what people want, that's what
Yeah.
they should get, and we just can take that panel down that has the car on it. It seems like it's just screwed on anyway, so.
Okay,
Oh.
I mean,
it's
it's brand
okay.
new, it's
I mean-
fine, yeah, I think
Yeah.
we would be okay to leave it. I
Yeah.
just don't want to base all future decisions off of the one panel on a park that was purposefully for whimsical.
Yeah, and we definitely understand that. After speaking with Kimley Horn, we kind of understood that that was discussed, right? I do think that that spin racer is something that really has been catching people's attention, and so I think that it's something that we can easily switch. It doesn't have to be right now, obviously, but even if it's 3, 5, 7, 10 years from now, I think that that may be something that if we were able to stick with whimsical, I think we need to clearly define what that means, because when I think of whimsical, I'm thinking fairy tale, whimsy, you know, but after speaking to Kimley Horn, I know that that is not the intent. So I think that if we wanted to go with whimsical, let's just outline what that means, and that way we know where we move forward with that. So if that is the goal, we'll get with Kimley Horn just to verify those parameters that we discussed earlier, and we'll write them down. And that way, for example, you weren't here during those discussions, people will know what clearly that whimsical theme is intended to mean.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of other options you can add into that park. I mean, it's already pretty full with, any kind of little pavilion and picnic table and benches, and I mean, you're already pretty full. So I'm not sure that there's going to be a whole lot more adding, and if this structure hopefully gives us a good 15 or 20 years,
Yeah.
you know.
And again, it's not just the playground structures itself. It's like if we wanted to do the QR code and add an interactive experience, we would just be sticking with that. Obviously, that one's a little bit more broader to where we can do pretty much anything with it. So I definitely agree. But,
Cool.
okay.
I want to interject this real quick, because you said something and it made a light go off, because we did do whimsical, because it was a little girl that this is a memorial park for. But you said something about fairy tales, and it's a big thing right now for children, boys and girls, to make fairy gardens. And I know that there's a section of a floral area there that's been adopted by a citizen. She was there at the opening. And it would not take up much space, but it would be a fun, maybe just let's file it in the back for the future to see about, like we have Cory the snake, the rock snake, and the library rock garden, and it might be kind of fun to let children bring things to put in a fairy garden. Either in that garden that somebody has adopted, or in a smaller area. But that would be fun. Don't have to make a decision on it. It's just a thought that I wanted to put out there, because you said fairy tale, and that's I thought went in beautifully with the color scheme.
I like that. Okay, no, I was just gonna say, for me, whimsical is just, vibrant colors, funky shapes, kind of that's already incorporated in the playground structure. I really like the idea of doing something with the fairies. I just very much want to stay within that realm than the two that were presented today.
Okay. We can definitely do that. Again, I think for this example, if we were to switch that spin racer, I think we would be able to get more of that whimsical. So if we wanted to do a fairy or if we wanted to do X, Y, Z, we can do that. Obviously, those we don't have to change anything today because it's very new, right? But again, I think having this theme would be able to assist us in making those changes 10 years from now if we needed to. Or if someone were to graffiti it and we can't clean it, you know. Okay. So next we have Sagewood Park. This is another neighborhood park close to Saginaw High School. For this, we have a very clean slate because this is a very outdated park. So with that, want to give a disclosure of we just went out of the box. If y'all have a very different theme that y'all want to see, let us know. But our first theme is space. We're across the school. What more of an educational theme can we provide than space, right? We can incorporate different aspects of space, such as the rocket ships. We can incorporate the planets, the moon, different types of things that you see in outer space. You can incorporate simpler things, such as that example on the right to the left has an interactive play tool, again, that resembles something similar to what we would see inside the rocket ship. So it doesn't have to be specific where it's just rocket ships, right? Space is a very broad theme. And so that was just one approach that we thought we could take with it. Our next one is civic/town. Personally, I think people who work in the city are very cool. No, I'm just kidding. But obviously with it being not too far from the fire station, we can constantly see fire trucks. We might be able to see school buses because those cross the street. So we just went with civic/town. That can be very broad in the sense of where you have a store, you have different elements within the town that you can have, or you can keep it more civic where it's just your police, your public works, your fire, different elements like that. So again, these are just two random themes that we came up with, but if y'all have any other suggestions, we are more than welcome to come up with different inspiration boards for each.
I would love the railroad theme just because Sagewood is in Highland Station, which all the streets are named after railway stations. However, I love the elements in your two proposed themes. They're very different from any other park, and I think would take kids' breath away when they first, come up there, especially the space theme, I think. Do you think we could get a lot of different activities in that small footprint with the space theme?
I think that would be very dependent on, once we actually get into the aspect of that engineering wise. But I think we have an architect here, so.
Yeah, it all comes down to budget. There's enough space to do multiple structures, but then you're paying for surfacing for multiple structures, and if you want a sidewalk perimeter around both, if you want swings, they take up more space. So
The other thing, do we know what this neighborhood would want? Have we heard anything back through any kind of community input as far as whether they want a more traditional type of structure, or, because I've also heard, I've been exposed to some of the other more futuristic ones that you all had renderings with the nets and all those type of cool climbing things, and kind of the landscape structures is one of the brands that I think of that has creative type of things. And we had some people that really did not like that, and they were like not wanting that futurist. They just wanted some slides, and they wanted your basic type of stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. So, I mean, I don't know. That could be something that, while, it tweaks our interest for sure, I'm not sure how they will feel about it being right next to their property.
I think that's a really valid point, because with Opal Joe Jennings and Brian Schwingler, we had those town hall meetings where we got the community feedback because it is in the neighborhood. I would like to do something similar for Sagewood because it is around a neighborhood, people's homes, and try to get feedback from them. Maybe we could give them a couple of options, but I would, like you said, to touch on your point, get feedback from the people in the neighborhood that are living around this park.
Because also it doesn't have really basically any parking. So, I mean, you can get about 2 or 3 cars there in front of it. And I don't think it has any access off of Basswood to walk in. Is that correct? No gate there? So really, it is truly designed just for those neighbors in that neighborhood, so, or that community in that neighborhood. So, you make it too cool and you'll have too many people showing up.
That is true. The cool thing would be that we have more selections for parents to go, hey, let's go to this neighborhood park, yes, but you definitely have that issue of the parking situation, and then you have off-street parking, right? We can definitely, you know, if y'all want to circle back on this one, we can definitely do that, and then kind of just either do a survey or a little bit more of an intimate town hall, or different varieties of things we can do. Again, this is just a proposal of different things that we can do, but if y'all are not wanting to make a decision on that, we can move to William Houston.
I think specifically, especially because Sagewood is on our priority list to tackle and get done with the new bond funds, I absolutely think we need to have a town hall meeting and get the public's opinion on that one.
Okay.
Do we need to have that town hall meeting where we can do slides? So do it at a building, or can we have the meeting at the park? Because Highland Station does have its own Facebook page, so we can help get the word out on something. But would we want to have the meeting at the park? Or would we need someplace where we could have a slideshow?
I think so. It would have to be
Yeah.
inside. Maybe at the library we can hold it where we have the ability to show, like you said, the pictures and kind of draw it out and get the feedback and all of that stuff. I
Yeah.
think it would have to be indoors.
Okay.
Is that a fire station right there nearby too, where maybe
Yeah.
could you do something in the bay there of the fire station?
Yeah,
To
I think
have
so.
a gathering?
I
that
think
was
when we're
closed?
ready, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, something that was closed for
Yeah.
the neighborhood.
So I think when we're ready to go that route, we'll be able to decide that and show y'all some different options of what we think is best. I think just for the purposes of today's agenda, just when it comes to the theme, I think we'll table that portion to not make a decision today. But it sounds like on some of the other ones, we've already made some decisions. So we'll just go from there, if that is okay with y'all.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Sounds great.
Okay, sorry. So our next one is William Houston Park. This park is very distinguishable in the sense that we have a lot of kids' activities there, right? We have, maybe adults too, but we obviously have the large soccer opportunities that a lot of people go there for. I think the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Soccer Association used to practice there all the time. I don't know if they still do, but I know that that was something that differentiated that. We also have the community center there as well. And obviously the playground structures themselves are very outdated. So the good thing about that is we don't have to worry necessarily about the existing theme to it. Now that being said, we know that we have a lot of sports element to this park. So one of our themes is sports. Obviously, this is more to the extreme of just showing you guys what the theme could look like, but it can be anywhere simple, much more simple. I think that Mr. Gillette had an example at Highland Station Park where a lot of adults utilize that park, but they don't necessarily have, not playground structures, but adult things that they can utilize, right? For this one, you could easily integrate a workout station or a stretching station of some sort where both the adults and perhaps the teams that are practicing there are also being able to utilize it. So that's more of how you can also stretch this theme to be more of a let's move with sports. Different things, obviously, that we have with just the ground or different elements that you can use when it comes to even just the benches. This is obviously just to depict the theme itself, and we don't necessarily think that we have to have a giant sized baseball or, but it's just to get the overall theme. Okay, we had two very random themes as well, just so that, again, we are able to have y'all choose very selectively from a wide range, just because this is the first time we've ever talked about themes. So with that, we have a nautical theme. Again, because our playground structures are nothing that we would keep to tomorrow, we would be able to start anew. So you could easily integrate a boat, a pirate ship type situation with nautical. You could incorporate different animals, sea life animals that you can have. But basically, it would just be anywhere where you have different elements of marine life, different elements of just the ocean, different things of that nature. With that, next theme would be a castle. I know we kind of talked about whimsical and fairy tales. Something we don't have is definitely a castle theme, so we kind of just thought that was a cool, fun theme for kids to be able to use. But for this one, obviously the center, the focal point would be the castle, but you would be able to integrate things for both boys and girls, like a knight or the princess. So you can definitely take that and run with it however you see fit. But
Yeah, the dragon was awesome.
I think for William Houston, because in our master plan, we are hoping to one day put in the baseball diamond, have the pickleball courts. It does have the history of, the soccer fields being there. I really do gravitate towards the sports active lifestyle theme. And I think it would be a really great idea that you were talking about incorporating workout equipment out there, stretching equipment, stuff like that, to really help pull in not only the kids, but the parents as well. So that's kind of where I feel on fall on William Houston.
Where was it that we were going to do the sports complex? Was this the park?
So Belt Mill, it would be out of Belt Mill, and that would be
Belt
the
Mill,
soccer
yeah.
complex. That's
Got it.
eventually, hopefully we can get done one of these days, but it's in the master plan, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
But this park as well, though, with the softball field.
With the softball
Oh,
field?
yeah, we're
Yes,
done.
yes.
Yeah,
we've
single
got
field, right? I think it was.
What's the
Yeah.
range on that field, out of curiosity, since we're talking about it?
The range.
What- yeah, what's
the yardage?
What's the wall?
It was 300, to center field? Oh, yeah, to center field, 350, yes.
Okay.
So a regular sized baseball
Yeah,
field.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
You'd remember more vividly than we would, the final, like we tweaked the softball field a little bit on that schematic, where the current playground is. If we built a new playground there, would that impede on where we had other structures planned? Because I don't want to build a new playground and then have to tear up part of it for whenever the day comes that we put that softball field, or if we put that softball field in.
No, so it is kind of tucked off to the side, so they would be able to have like equipment access on both sides of the play structure to like go install field materials, fencing, sidewalks, kind of around it. The only thing would be like the perimeter sidewalk of that playground, once we get pickleball courts, is like a shared perimeter sidewalk, so it might have to be redone or repaired if they drove over it.
Thank you. I
But
probably
the
have it
idea
right in
would be
here, but.
that they're kind of separate. facing.
yeah, so I think the overall
Thank you.
idea shared in the master plan is to integrate more sports features to that. So I think if y'all wanted to go with the sports theme, I definitely think that it goes hand in hand when it comes to that. But just opening it up to if y'all agree or disagree.
I think that's a no-brainer on that one.
Okay, sounds good. So for this one, we will go with sports. Okay?
Trust me, all the other ones that you're suggesting are awesome.
Oh, I know.
But
They
I
are
know.
very cool.
Those
We
were
just
amazing.
wanted to provide a wide range,
Yeah.
even though we assumed that we would probably go with sports, but just so that y'all's gears start, moving and grooving and
Maybe nautical could be one of the options for
a different
Sagewood.
future park
When we
or
put when we put in the
Sagewood,
pool.
yes.
Yeah, there you go.
So when we put it in the pool, we can go nautical theme.
Okay, so our last one is Willow Creek Park.
Planting that seed.
Obviously, this is our largest park within our city park system. We have 2 different playground structures, one fully renovated. That one's a more accessible playground. We do have a train type play structure that was integrated into it. That is the only thing that is a little bit more thematic. But with that, throughout our wonderful park system, we have a variety of different things that have themes, such as the Switchyard, which again is rail oriented. Obviously, we have a very cool, what would you call it? The caboose? Yeah, caboose. You can actually go in there, but we don't have it open to do that. We have the train depot that may or may not be able to be moved in the future. I don't know if they made a decision on that, but that was originally, if it were ever to be moved, and if it has the ability to be moved, because I know that was a big thing, we could add that to that as well and have that added, again, depending on if or if not, we can. But on top of that, we have different type of structures such as the food snack station. Kind of looks like a depot to me from an angle. You could easily paint a mural on it that makes it look more so as a depot. Our other playground structure doesn't really have anything, but I know that y'all are wanting to change it anyway, so I think that helps, right? But when we are making those decisions, this would be able to help us drive through that, right? With that, so we have 2 themes, train and grain, literal to the T, or Western heritage. Train and grain, we have our Train and Grain Festival there. It's a very straightforward theme, right? A lot of train aspects to it. We couldn't find any grain examples that we can add, but obviously you could add anything to any type of structure. But more notably, we have a broader theme of just Western heritage. So we're not necessarily having to just stick to those trains, right? But obviously we live in Saginaw, so we're a railway town. That's how we were established. So we know that that's something that is a characterization of our city. So we know that that's something that can help set us apart when it comes to the Switchyard, things of that nature that we've already integrated. It could be something as simple as just adding more train structures. You could do more of a Western frontier aspect where you add saloons, the general store, different playground structures that kids can have a more interactive experience with. But we think that the theme itself is also very broad to where you can easily integrate it into the basketball courts or something that's a little bit more of a 12 and up or adult type age group, right? A perfect example of that would be within the trail system, we want to implement different types of trails. And so examples of that trail could be, we call one the caboose, we call one the grain trail, different types of things that we can add for the adult experience as well. But again, being able to have a theme would help guide each one of those decisions so that we're making purposeful decisions. So with that, I know we had a little laugh about the training grades, so I don't know if we want to necessarily do that one, but I will open it up to opinions.
I think you said this, that the train and grain could coordinate well with the Western heritage, because that is part of the Western frontier, getting joined by the railroad. And the fact that this area is on the old Chisholm Trail, or one of the forks of the old Chisholm Trail. So I would love to incorporate train and Western heritage and somehow beautifully blend those. I think it would be, it's very visually appealing and would look like a really fun park.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's room to be able to meld both of these together, and it is a cohesive story that we're telling within this park area. Because we have the trains and then the play on the general store, you know, the stagecoach. I think there's room to be able to incorporate elements from both of these themes while it's still on theme and on brand. But if we had to just nail down and say one or the other, while we still can incorporate elements from both, I would go towards Train Green, but wanting to add those elements of Western heritage as well that would play into the whole train theme of it all.
So beautiful Meritage, just call it Western Train and Grain.
Done.
Yeah. So I think, like you said, Western heritage we can easily incorporate the train and grain to it, but it's a little bit broader in the sense of we have a whole different type of thing that we can do. So if we wanted to do, for example, we have the manholes that are painted. Right now, I think they're just random insects or different types of things of that nature. We could have it where if it's Western heritage, for example, we can make barnyard animals out of it, right? And it hits that Western heritage portion, but it doesn't necessarily hit the train and grain aspect of it, right? But if y'all wanted to do train and grain, it would be more so things of those elements. And you're right, we can broaden it up, but so much as well. So I think that's why we were including the Western heritage to kind of broaden it up as well.
Cattle and horses go good with both themes.
I'm sorry?
Cattle and horses go good with both themes.
Yeah.
I still would say train and grain too, because we're already down that road. But certainly, I agree, adding other elements down the road once we kind of finish out, maybe getting that train element closer to the switchyard as well, you know, with that playground. Then doing some other little pieces maybe would be fun. Yeah.
Those facades that say saloon and general store and jail, one could easily say depot,
Yeah,
train
Yeah.
depot.
train depot.
And those are photo ops that, you know, with the way that Willow Creek Park is and how it's spread out so well, I mean, you can experience it as you go along with a nice trail there too. So, yeah, it's
I
great.
like that very much.
Okay, so it sounds like y'all prefer train and grain, but you'll want to kind of have a note under there that says,
Yeah.
we brought it up to Western heritage instead of vice versa, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so with that, I believe we have a theme for almost everyone, but y'all would have to, this is a discussion and action, so y'all would have to make a formal motion if y'all wanted to pass the other themes.
All right, so then how would the wording of that motion go? That we're approving the park themes as presented today?
So I would have to specify for each one if y'all wanted to do it as presented.
Could you recap for us what our decisions were?
Yes,
And we can-
that's
we can
exactly
then
what I'll
ratify it.
do for the ones that we voted on, and then you could make the motion to pass item 2A as presented. Okay, so for Brian Schwengler, we went with Nature Explorer. Okay, for Highland Station, we went with Nature Center. We're not touching Kiwanis. I'm sorry, I'm sure I mispronounced that. Opal Jennings, we went with Whimsical. For Sagewood, we are not selecting a theme at this time. For William Houston, we are selecting sports as a theme. And then for Willow Creek Park, we will be going with Train and Grain and ensuring that we also include Western heritage into that as well.
All right, and I will open up the floor for a motion.
I move that we designate the park themes as presented by Susie. We appreciate all that hard work on that, but as you said, as we discussed, thank you.
Second.
And it passed. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was really great. All right, and moving on to item 2B, discussion and action regarding the park signage wayfinding plan. Susie Victor Trevino.
Okay, Madam Chairman, glad to be back. Just kidding. So for this item, Maria will also be putting up a PowerPoint shortly. But again, from the planning perspective, we're trying to plan the city as a whole when we're making purposeful decisions. Part of this year's work plan has been to try and create a master signage plan. And I'm here today because a lot of our signage is actually present within the park system. So I am going to briefly explain that to y'all and kind of drive you through what a master plan would look like for signage. Okay, so the purpose of signage within the system is signs used in the public parks, recreation areas, trails to guide, inform, protect, and educate visitors. Again, we have 7 parks within our park system. We integrated different dates for when our park systems were updated. Obviously, y'all are a little bit more familiar with that. Brian Schwengler was just updated, as well as Opal Joe Jennings. Highland Station was updated in 2019. Kiwanis was updated in 2023. Sagewood, it's been a minute, 1999. William Houston, somewhere in the 90s. I may or may have not been born yet. Willow Creek Park was updated in 2020 for the inclusive park, and then the old playground structure was the 1990s. But notably, we have a very beautiful new road that is Knowles. So my public works director and assistant director want to make the park system very pretty when it comes to Willow Creek Park, because it is next to brand new infrastructure that people are driving through every day. So with that being said, our goal would be to replace all of the existing park signs first. That is gateway, wayfinding, regulation signs, trail markers, all of the above. Let's do that first. And then goal 2 would be to create any new signage that we may want to see. So first goal is to basically replace anything that is not of our liking for today's standards, right? And I'm going to go and give y'all some examples of what I'm talking about. And then goal 2 would be anything that y'all want to see in the future. That would be our next focus. Okay. Gateway signs are signs that say, hello, welcome to here. As you can see on the left, we have some very vintage signs, if we are able to use that word. You see that there is a lot of rust, which may or may not be purposeful. It is not. And some outdated information on that as well. As you can see, it's ci.saginaw.tx.us. So that's actually not an updated domain anymore. With that, we would probably want to use signage that strays away from permanent information like that. Again, incorporating QR codes and things of that nature where we can literally scan and be directed to whatever website. If it's changed tomorrow, we're good on not having to change this sign, especially because these are very expensive when we're talking about different types of designs, right? On the bottom, you see an example of an even older version of some of the signs we have, a bit more like campsite nature-esque, if you may ask. But we have a few of those signs integrated within Willow Creek, but then on the other side, we have those top signs. So again, there's no cohesion when it comes to a lot of this signage. So our idea when we're creating a master signage plan is to have one uniform type look. It doesn't necessarily mean that all the signs are going to look the same, but we know that they were purposely planned. In the middle, you have an example of some of our better signs. Obviously, the switch yard is a very good example of what a more modernized sign can look like. We have the cord and steel type integration of mixed metals where we have the metal, we have the wood. City Council did say that they want to see the cord and steel integrated within some sort of mixed metal material. So that's, I think, what we would try to incorporate. On the bottom, you see a better example of what the left ones are supposed to look like today. So just shows that we do have some good signage, but again, within that example, we have website information that is outdated. So right is just examples of different things that we can see. The top is a little bit more of a traditional concrete. Bottom is that cord and steel mixed with different colors. Okay, next, trail markers. Kind of briefly talked about that, right? Our left side is currently just wood, and it looks like someone maybe, just hand carved that out. I cannot testify to that, but I would not be surprised. Whereas on the right side, you see something a little bit more update. It could be something that we literally see while we're running within our pathway, or it could be something that's to the right, kind of like what the trail markers currently today are. If you see the very right bottom example, it has East Loop on there, so that's kind of the example of what I was saying, where if we're doing train and grain, we can easily incorporate a train trail, a grain trail, or any of the above, and have a different system somewhere else that has more information about what path you're running and what it kind of looks like. Okay, wayfinding, that is essentially a tool utilized to help get us from point A to point Z. I'm on the north end of the park. I need to get to the gazebo, the train station, wherever you're trying to go to, it's supposed to be easily read to where you can navigate that system. Left side, we have two different options where we have words and just arrows, easy, assuming we all know how to read, right? Whereas the right has a map. So it has a map of the entire park system, or just the north, the south, kind of can vary, but essentially it helps us get from point A to point B. Okay. Right side are different examples of just what potential can be if it were to be updated. Okay. Our next type of sign is regulatory / safety. These are the signs that most people sometimes don't see if it's not in a good spot, and that is a concern. So part of the master plan would be to purposely place these signs in areas that are eligible, people can see, read, and understand, right? So when we're talking about the content themselves as well, we don't want to give too many rules, but we want to give enough rules to where everything is targeted. Simple rules like cleaning dugout after your game. That example, we have another yellow sign next to it, and then we have a white sign. There's no cohesiveness whatsoever. You can easily read what's going on and where it is, but it's no cohesive pattern when it comes to it. We obviously have different types of parks, like the skate park, the bark park, where we have different types of rules for each. It's important that we're looking at all of the rules that we currently have and seeing if they're all necessary, if we're missing anything. So that would be part of the entire package as well. On the right side, I included an example of some very simple signs. They're obviously very different. One is just park times and hours in which they're operable, and then the bottom is rules, but you can see that they have a theme going on from the top to the bottom. Okay, possibilities. These are very conceptual. They are not anything that is set in stone, but again, for that trail marker on the top, you can see that we included the train aspect to it, so that would be one trail, right? For some of these other signs, we just have a very simplistic, welcome to Willow Creek Park, keeping that cord and steel that City Council really wanted to see. Obviously, this is the first time y'all are seeing it, so we'll get y'all's feedback on some of this as well. But these are just very rough conceptual ideas that we just wanted to help visualize of what it could be. Okay, so our recommendation with this is that we, again, begin with replacing our existing sign inventory. And that is because 4 out of the 7 parks have new infrastructure that have been recently installed since 2019 to now. Reconstruction of Knowles Drive is now complete, and a parks bond was approved, so we can actually be able to make some of these changes happen as well. Obviously, now you'll may be able to better depict how this directly affects the park system, but I'm just going to open it up to if you'll have any questions about what the sign plan would look like or how it's.
I just want to touch on, I'm very much excited that we're going to be able to incorporate the QR codes with this signage, because in previous meetings, we've talked about incorporating the QR codes, and I think that's really important to have that on the signs, especially, you know, the gateway signage where you can scan the, not the gateway, the, wayfinding. You can scan that QR code, it'll take you to the parks page where you can report a concern, you can get information about the park that you're at. So I really like the use of that, as well as with the trail markers. On one of these photos, it shows your location in case you need to contact 911. So I really like the safety feature on that as well. I still want to get into the signage. My only concern is, are you needing from us a hard confirmation, yes, we are willing to allocate bond funds? Because for me, I want to make sure that we're able to prioritize the parks that we said we were going to do and have those funds able to accomplish those goals first and foremost.
Yeah, and we definitely understand that. I think that was actually brought up by a city council person as well.
Okay.
I think right now we're just trying to see if y'all would be willing to allocate funds, just because a large portion of our signage is in the park system. I understand that with the bonds, you guys have obviously already promised certain things would be done first, and we definitely understand that. I do understand you'll still have parks funding for the last bond as well, and obviously you'll have a different type of not general, but you'll have a fund within just your regular, everyday expenses as well. I understand that you'll have different projects coming up with other things, so we just wanted to put this on your radar. We have budget season coming up, or we're in the middle of that. So in order for us to just properly plan, we are wanting to see if y'all are willing to, and then how much y'all are willing to. But I understand that it may not be something y'all can decide today. And if we have to kind of change our structure of how we're doing the signage plan, we can look at that as well. But I think that the Public Works Director and Assistant Public Works Director, they really want to change all of the existing signage, but we don't want to do that unless we have some sort of foundation of where we're going with that. So I feel like it is a time-sensitive issue in that sense.
Okay.
So I feel like we're still missing quite a lot of detail, though, to make a determination, right? So do we have any perspectives cost around any of those designs? I know that they're very much, so this is your bid proposal, 45K?
Yes.
What does that consist of? So break that down for me. Like, how did we get to 45 grand?
Yeah, so this is just based off of our lowest quote that we've received. Obviously, it can be a little bit higher, it could be a little lower, just depending on what steps we're having. But in general,
And I apologize, I'm going to cut you off, but I'm very into the specifics. So you received this for what? Like for all the parks to do all the signs?
for all the signage.
Okay,
Yes.
for all signage.
Yes. So in general, the project itself is to hit on all of our signage,
Okay.
but a majority of our existing signage is within the park system. We don't have a lot of wayfinding in general that says this way to City Hall or this way to the fire department, but those are different elements that we would also incorporate that.
So is this the only bid we have? Is this the best bid we have?
We've received different types of bids. This is just based off the lowest one that we've received thus far. Now, we haven't opened it up to where, you know, we're wanting to have all the bids be all of these 4 categories.
Sure.
We've been getting some where we're getting the bare minimum, and then some where we're getting all the bells and whistles. So I'm just basing this off of the quote that provided everything, and it was the lowest. And
So to get to this bid of 45K, you obviously came up with, here, we need X materials, we need this and that. What is, like, so is those renderings based on the materials that were proposed in the bid, or is that, how'd you come up with the actual, again, the variables?
yeah, so the plan itself, when we're getting quotes from people, we've been getting quotes based off just different things that we've been looking for. Originally, we were trying to get just a basic type of plan, but it seems that when we took this to city council, they wanted to have something where we get the specifications, we're able to get a product that we know, hey, tomorrow we can just give this book to them and they're able to make that sign happen based off that. So the more bells and whistles that you want, obviously, the higher the cost.
Sure.
So for this one itself, I'm basing it off of all of the bells and whistles, with it being the least amount of, in terms of the quote. But with that being said, so for this one, we were quoted 4 different steps or phases of the plan, but within that, you're always able to take out a phase if you don't want to. So I just half this, so half of it would be the city just gets that funding, and then half of it would be from y'all, from this proposal. So it's actually half of that price. So it's actually the lowest quote that I received was 90K, around 90K.
So this is not actual signs. This is the sign master plan to establish standards, to establish products, materials that are going to be used in that. And then, so with that 45,000, you're saying that's half of what the total city master sign plan would be for other departments as well, I guess, or facilities or whatever type of thing?
Yes, so that is exactly, it is a manual based off just the specifications, the design, if we were to do location of each signs, all of that is basically packaged from the beginning to the end. When it comes to they're coming out, they're looking at the city, so that it's not just a one-size-fits-all type book, right? It's more so they come out, they're looking at what we specifically need if we're doing the one that has the higher end. If we were to do something more simple, then they don't do a site visit at all. They just kind of base it off of what we're able to send them. And different companies do different things, so it really is just dependent on who we decide to go with at that point. But yes, it's just to create the manual. So it would be equivalent to creating the parks master plan.
Okay.
But of course, that is just a digital, physical copy. You actually integrating different things that the master plan incorporates is a whole different step. So that would be a separate step for actually fabricating the signs and installing the signs.
Was lighting accounted for in these estimates?
So this is just for them to design it.
To design, okay.
Yes. So within that, they would be able to look at lighting and different types of things for those signs. But it's essentially we're hiring someone to have and go through the creative process of creating the design and also fabricating the engineering standards that we would have for each type of sign as well.
So
Which would be an additional cost.
It's already in this cost.
No, but I mean, the actual making of the signs?
Fabricating the signs would be a different cost, yes, sir.
That's what
Yes.
my question was gonna be. So apart from this half, the 45,000 for for designing it, and then the next phase of costs, is city council looking to us to flip half that with them as well, or does that fall on city funds?
Anytime y'all would want to replace any park signage, that would either be through y'all or through the city. So it just really depends on what funds are allocated for what. I think from the city standpoint, we're probably just, if anything, we might do 2 a year or something simple. If we do the wayfinding, those are a little bit cheaper than the big gateway signs. So it really just depends on what kind of signage you're looking at. I think that the priority for the Public Works Department is to replace the regulation signs, the gateway signs, and different types of signs for the parks. It just really depends on what park we're looking at.
Okay.
And some may only have one gateway sign. Willow Creek has a variety because you got the north end and the south end. So it's very dependent based off the park.
Do you all have a timeline for completing this project with the signs? You know, within 3 years, we want to replace all the signs. Within X amount of time, is there anything like that we can gauge how much time we would have to be able to provide these funds?
It's really up to the city council and y'all in terms of how quick you guys want to go. Part of the master plan would be to essentially design it all so that if y'all are wanting to change something 10 years from now, we know exactly what we're doing. Obviously,
Have to start from scratch.
yes, yeah. That's essentially the goal, that we're creating a plan that sets the foundation of what all future signage is, so that if we don't necessarily have the funds to change all of our existing signage, then we understand that. But you know that in 2 years from now, if you wanted to change all of the gateway signs for the park systems, you could, and it's based off the specifications and the designs that we have. And again, it's to try and make everything more purposeful, right? We had some examples of signs that we have right next to each other that are nothing alike. They're very different. It's just to try to make a more cohesive experience throughout our parks and our city in general.
We're creating the theme, the storyboard of it all.
Exactly.
So I guess I'm struggling with 7 parks equaling half of the overall planning that needs to go on for the city's master sign plan. You know, we're looking at a third of the cost of the park's master plan for signage just in our parks. So that's, I guess, kind of where I'm struggling with that dollar figure on that, so. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you say, sir?
It's a $90,000, excuse me, it's a $90,000 SOP, right, stand on procedure. Did we look at maybe going through like a committee or working internally, or there's a reason we went external with that?
It's something that requires expertise.
And there's different site requirements and different
Yeah, so there's the graphic design portion of it, and then there's the engineering portion of it. So it's a little bit more complex than just us saying, hey, this looks pretty, let's do that, which I can do, but I can guarantee you it may not be what we're looking for. So when it comes to, you know, the master plan, again, is a very good example of that. It can be done in-house, but the extensiveness of the content itself is something that we definitely would want to outsource, where we have someone specialized doing it and conducting that.
Maria, do we have a number on the unallocated funds for the 2021 bond?
I don't have an exact number. I think the estimate was about 300,000, just to.
Something around there?
Yes,
Okay.
300,000, yes.
And that's without the cost of replacing the plug and play in Willow Creek Park near the dog park, that playground that we haven't,
So that has already been allocated,
okay, perfect.
right?
That has,
It was just the themes that y'all still had to decide on.
okay.
And that's not in that 300?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Do we have anything else that's pending from the 2021 bond that needs to be
The
accounted
only
for?
other thing that hasn't gone before council may be the power pedestals
Okay,
that haven't
that's
been
a minimal
installed.
cost.
Yes.
When you brought this to council, what are their feelings on the quotes, on the pricing? Were they happy with what they were presented with, and we're just the next step to okay it, and then it's full send, or?
So at the time, we didn't have those quotes specifically. We kind of just wanted to gain their traction on if we wanted to move forward with something a little bit more simplistic or something a little bit more complex. But since we're in the budget process, we're allocating a certain amount of funds for this to be a line item budget, and we will be having discussions during the workshop aspects of the budget or the town halls.
And you said this was the lowest cost estimate that you've presented today?
As of right now, yes, ma'am.
Right now.
As with any of those type of plans, scope is where the expense is, you know, and how detailed and how much you're talking. So anything less than that, I mean, so is this the fullest scope, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this would be the full scope. It could always be less than that, depending on what we want from, you know, obviously if y'all are allocating funds, we would want to get y'all's opinion on it. And then we would get city council's opinion on what exactly we're wanting to do. From our last conversation, it did sound like we wanted all of the bells and whistles, but once we see the price with it and each phase, they may have a different opinion on that as well. But we kind of just wanted to introduce this to y'all so that y'all have that in y'all's, you know, scope when y'all are thinking about it. Obviously, our budget isn't finalized until, I think, July. Yeah. So we may be able to have another meeting if y'all are uncomfortable with making a decision off that, but I don't know if we necessarily would have the information that you're wanting to make before you make that decision. This could be something that we table it for next year, but it is in our 2026, 2027 work
Well,
plan.
and in previous meetings too, we've discussed the need to replace our park signage. So I understand the need, and I agree that the need is there.
Yeah, and we want to be good partners with the city council and.
Exactly.
And all of that, it's just, I mean, yeah, that's a bigger amount considerably than I was expecting.
Now,
It's a
through the
bigger
next
shot.
steps of the process, we say we okay this, and it begins. And then we start picking and choosing, you're going through city council, exactly what the design look, we're gonna do lights, no lights, stonework, or whatever. Are we also going to be able to have a say in that design process, or no?
I think we would still present that to y'all and get y'all's input on it. I think obviously because y'all are allocating funds, we want to hear y'all's input on these decisions. But I think that the master plan itself would have to be final approved by the city council.
Yes, absolutely.
So you said this is the lowest bid you've got. Is that safe to assume then you're still seeking additional bids, or is this where it is and it is what it is?
We've received about 3 to 4 bids, so per our financial plan that we have to at least seek 3 bids. If we were to be over 100K, we would have to bid it out, but right now, from just this bid, it's under 100K, so I don't think that would have to be the case. But we would still have to get 2 more bids from, I think it's the HUB system. So we would still have to obtain a few more to make sure that we're in compliance with that.
And as a follow-up to that, what is the timeline for you to get those additional bids right now? If you were to predict, you know,
Before the budget is finalized.
so before July.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah. Probably within the next few weeks. Yes, sir.
So then safe to assume then if we met again, you would have that information to be able to share with us so that we could reassess?
We could, yes. We could always have I don't know if we would be looking at the regular meeting or have to have a special called meeting. So I don't have the budget calendar in front of me right now, but that may be a case where we can just have a special called meeting as long as we meet quorum, we can make a decision based off that.
I like that idea because we do have a meeting in July, and if we do need to do a special, just because we don't have all of the options and all of the numbers in front of us right now, I personally, I agree with you, I feel more comfortable waiting until we get all of that information in. How does everyone else feel? I mean, this is definitely something that I want to say yes to, I just want to make sure I'm saying yes to the right number.
Agreed.
I have a different number than that in my mind for it, so.
Yeah. And, if y'all decide on it being less or more, just kidding. Y'all can always allocate that within your motion. We were just trying to essentially see how much y'all are willing to fund so that when we're going to the city council to request funds, we're able to kind of account for that if we're being able to do that. And I know one of your concerns was, what the ratio is. A lot of our park signs are in the park system. I would say arguably we have more signs within the park system than throughout the city. So I think that was our rationale behind that. Obviously right now we have no wayfinding at all when it comes to, hey, this is where City Hall is, this is where the fire station is. So part of the plan would be to create that, but it would still be, in my opinion, less than what we would be looking at within the park system itself.
Okay.
So I just want to volley out some thoughts that are coming through. I understand that cheaper is not always better, but I'm also divvying this up to $6,000 per park just to get the plan, and that doesn't even include a sign. And so who knows how much the signs themselves are going to be, and we're still unsure who's paying for those signs, city or Parks Board. So when I'm thinking of $6,000 per park, I'm thinking, wow, what could we do for $6,000 at each park? But I also want to think creatively. I'm a member of an organization that publishes illustrated folk song books for children. And instead of hiring an illustrator for these publishings, they commissioned the senior art students at the University of Connecticut to a competition to interpret the folk song with their art form. And then the winning entry gets, I think, maybe a scholarship, but also gets published as a senior in college. So I'm wondering, when you're talking about graphic design and engineering, we have so many top-tier universities in a 30-minute radius of us and I realize this isn't going to be decided, that we can't communicate with everybody and get an answer from them by July. This is kind of short notice for this kind of money. But what about thinking outside and thinking creatively about partnering, collaborating with some of these universities with their engineering graphic design, and maybe having a scholarship, or maybe, I don't know what the payoff would be for those design students who would want to enter, but they're being educated at some really great universities that we have in North Central Texas. Could this kind of project be trusted to a grad student, a group of grad students in engineering and design, or does it have to be with a company that has seasoned graphic designers?
Even half of the cost of it's going to hit certain purchasing requirements that you have to get because of being a municipality. So you're not going to have some of the flexibility that you would experience in the private sector with that. But
Yeah, and I think
That's
that's a great point, branching out to see what other options we have, right? I think to answer your question about trust, whether we can trust them or not, I think it really depends on what kind of product we want, right? We've been able to, before our Parks Master Plan, we've trusted UTA students to create that plan. If you compare that plan to what the outsourced company that we selected for this previous one, it is a major difference in the sense of, because they are seasoned, you get a different type of look, right? Whereas, I've been in grad school. I understand that I don't know everything. Even though we're learning certain things, it's not till you actually go through the motions at the job site that you can get a certain amount of skill set. So that would be the biggest differentiation, I think, in my opinion. But it's obviously up to what y'all are looking for as well. But with that being said, it kind of sounds like we want to get some more formalized quotes and then come back to y'all in July before we have to finalize the budget. So we'll make it our homework to get those final budget quotes and then come before y'all again in July, or depending on that budget calendar, we may need to have a special called meeting, but I will coordinate with Maria. Luckily, we're in the same office, same building, so I know where I can find her. She can't hide, so.
Perfect, that sounds,
So I do have one question. I'm so
Yes, ma'am.
sorry to take up more time, but, so sign companies don't have their own graphic design engineering, like if we wanted to go ahead and, get bids on a type of sign, like the one with the Saginaw, grain logo up and over, the Willow Creek one.
Yes, ma'am. Some companies do.
Yeah, so would that be included in the signage cost, or they charge extra for that?
So it depends on the company. If you have more of a mom and pop shop, they might be able to do it from straight point A to point Z, right? But I think for the majority of them, they're going to charge you to design it based off what inspiration pictures you have, but they're not necessarily going to be able to plan out the whole park system within itself. They would just be able to take one. If we were to just replace, for example, the switch yard, they know what we're working with, but they wouldn't necessarily be able to design a whole selection or variety of signs when it comes to our entire city, if that answers that. Okay. So I have homework to do, and I will come back to y'all, and hopefully we'll be able to get some better answers for y'all.
all right, thank you so much.
Awesome. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, and that puts us at item 2C, discussion and action regarding the Veterans Memorial Program, Maria Hernandez.
Yes, ma'am. Let me go ahead and switch over the camera. All right, so the Vet Brick Program is moving back from KSB to the Parks Board. So as you all know, it was an initiative by the Parks Board to have Kiwanis have the vet bricks. And so residents now have the option to go online. They are no longer doing like paper applications. So you have the option to go into our website and submit a application to have your brick installed. So let me pull up the website and so I can show you some of those updates. I'll try to go through this quickly. So we made this move earlier this year in January. So since then, KSB has done a lot of improvements to this program, one of them being that they created an online page for it. So right now, if you go into our city parks, scroll down to Kiwanis, you'll see the Veterans Memorial, something that I know the board has been asking for, to have something a little bit more accessible for our residents. So now it does say that it's under the Parks Advisory Board, and then you have the application at the bottom. So today we're gonna review the program and see if y'all wanna make any changes, and I'll let you know the changes that have been made already. So since January, we've sold 26 bricks at the set price of $25, and that covers the $20 engraving fee, and the $5, it was planned that would cover the purchase of the bricks. So that was a bulk purchase done a few years ago. So right now we have a surplus of bricks that we can kind of grab and take to the engraving vendor. So we no longer have to worry about getting bricks, but we do want to make sure that the fee covers engraving, staff time, and the installation as well. So in May, KSB voted to increase the fee from $25 to $50, and that was so that we could cover the added fees, so anything other than engraving. Since then, we haven't received any applications, we haven't sold any bricks, but today I wanted to get your recommendation and see if you would be willing to increase that to $100 so that it covers the staff time and installation of those bricks. So I think we'll start from there.
So in January, you could do it for, a citizen could purchase a brick for 25?
Correct.
And now we're looking at 100?
So right now, currently, it's set up $50.
It's at 50. But the
Yes.
proposal is to ask 100
Yes,
per
ma'am.
brick?
Yes.
I don't think we're going to get very much interest quadrupling the ask.
So you say that 100 is so that we cover the installation, all of the cost, right? So what is so obviously somebody's calculated, what is the actual straight line cost for all of it, all in?
So we are taking into account staff time, right? Public services is the crew or the division that is tasked with installing that. So their fee on average is about $21.95.
Okay.
That does not include the application process, so that would be something that I would do. And I don't have the calculation for my hourly rate, but, so that would, the $21.95 would only cover public services.
So then 20 bucks per brick, $5 or $20 to get it engraved, $5 for the brick itself, we're at $60, $70?
So it would be about 2 hours. So far, it's taken about 2 hours to get
Okay,
a
so
few bricks installed. So I
it's taking
don't
them
have-
hours to install a brick?
Yeah, so I don't know the details of what it takes for them to go back there and get the, I don't know, the measurements right or making sure that it's leveled. But that, so far, that's what it's taken.
They're charging us 2 hours to install a brick.
And it's been several bricks at once. It
Sure.
hasn't been one.
Okay.
That was gonna be one of my questions, is how often are you waiting, are we doing this for every brick? Are you waiting to get 5 requests for a brick? Is there room for us to offer it where you put in your application and we install them quarterly or something like that? So it's not for every brick application, every brick that's coming in, we're using up all of those resources in that staff time.
Yeah, and definitely, that's something that we can look at. So far, because it was such a, it wasn't advertised as much, the program, we didn't see a lot of bricks coming in at once. But since January, because of the application now being online, we had that influx of brick applications. So since then, we've had a lot, but it has slowed down. So definitely, that's something that we can do quarterly.
When they double the price, they haven't got any more bricks. We're gonna double it again. Do we think that doubling it again is going to reduce the likelihood of people participating?
There's that too.
That's a potential, yes.
Since we've already seen that, it seems, from the last time it was increased.
And it may be something that we decrease it for a holiday or just seasonal.
Do promos or something like
Yes,
that for like
correct.
Veterans Day or something?
Yes.
And I think, where did I see that? Is it's $500, is that right, for the software, for the payment system?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there another payment system within the city that we can piggyback off of? Do we need our own specialized payment system that we're paying for, or how does that work?
There may be another system that we can try to incorporate our program into. This is the software that we're using currently, so that is why that is being proposed. But I can go back and and see, and research and see if there's other options.
Because if we're paying for payment systems throughout the city for other forms of payment to be allocated, I would like to think that it would be something that we could just add on to a system that we're already paying for. And then that's a $500 annual cost that we can get rid of.
Right. Yeah, if the rec center could have that as a part of one of the things they can sell, you know, on the side type thing through their stuff or wherever, maybe. Permitting, I don't know.
Yeah, I would have to get with our finance team.
Yeah.
Because this program would be under the Public Works Department, we do have different softwares that we kind of manage and administer. So I would have to get with their team and our finance team and see if that's something that we can get access to. I don't know at this moment.
Okay. So maybe that's something to explore, and then the idea of not necessarily putting in the brick as soon as the application comes in, but we're doing an installation every couple of months. Maybe that could help save some costs as well. I don't feel comfortable charging $100 for an engraved brick. I don't.
Yeah, no.
I will not vote for that. I don't like that. That's too expensive. There's got to be other ways that we can cut some costs, or at least explore other avenues before we have to increase the cost again, especially after it was just increased.
Would y'all feel comfortable leaving it at $50, or would you want to see that reduced?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Do you want to leave it at $50, the application fee for the brick?
So you said prior to the change, you had 25, 26 bricks for the 25, and since the $50 change, we haven't had any, but that's only been a month's
month.
worth of time.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
I would say we give it a shot at the 50
Yeah.
and see, but
I'm okay with that.
yeah,
I just don't want it raised anymore.
yeah.
And if we could put on the website, on here, on where it says brick details, just say, bricks will be installed in the months of, and then 4 months, so that people will know if they're applying in January, that their brick won't be installed until May. So they know that ahead of time, but that will cut down on our cost. We're just at least being efficient.
Exactly.
Okay. So right now, we have approximately space for 450 bricks in the park. We have about 100 bricks that have been engraved and installed, so we still have a lot of space. Do y'all want to look into providing bigger bricks? So right now, the brick size is 4 inches by 8 inches, and we have looked into talking to our provider, the one that engraves them. There isn't much room to do more than just putting in the name, the years served. There isn't a place for like a logo or any sort of figure. So would y'all want us to look into having bigger bricks for them to install?
You had said we already did a big bulk order, so I would hate for the bricks that we've already paid for to be unallocated and unused. And then it goes to with being cohesive in the theme of what we've got going on back there at the Memorial Park, to make sure that we don't have different colors, different shapes. And I think sticking with the bricks that we have right now, at least, I would feel more comfortable than changing it up and offering different sizes and different colors.
Would people be permitted to then purchase 2 bricks and have them installed? If it's to honor one person and they want, let's say, the Marines insignia on it, they could purchase 1 brick with the name and the World War II or whatever, and then underneath that brick have a second brick with
Right.
their
What branch?
their branch and et cetera.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go around that issue of, I think that's something that we would be able to allow. So another thing that I wanted to go over, is all of the eligibility requirements. So right now, it is limited to current residents. Do we want to open that up or just stick to?
I like the idea of still sticking to residents, personally. What is everyone's?
I like that idea too. I'm sorry, I got stuck on a tangent for a second. So we're paying an annual fee, $500, on software that we don't actually have ongoing revenue for?
So that is a software that has already been purchased by a different department, the communications team that runs
Okay.
the website, and they are no longer using the software. And
So is it a subscription?
yes,
model?
yes, it
Okay.
is. So in order to continue using that and having that available with our program, we would need to continue those $500 payment.
Last year, when I brought up that it was unclear on the website last year, how to, it didn't even say, come by City Hall to apply, or it just said Memorial Bricks. I was going to purchase a brick in honor of my dad who fought the Nazis in World War II. He's not a Saginaw resident, but I am. And so I think it would be good for people who are Saginaw residents to feel that they have the freedom to honor past veterans and their family. And I don't think that takes away from anything. And like Scott was talking about, we have this set cost for the software. Why not generate more revenue to offset that cost? My opinion.
Yeah, we gotta figure something out, because we're literally just, just throwing money out, because we don't have a revenue generator there. There's nothing driving this.
I see on item two, the second one here, I would like to keep it to Saginaw residents. I do like the idea, you honoring your father, people get to honor relatives. Number two, it says, should eligibility be restricted to veterans only or expanded to include deceased individuals who served? How do y'all feel about that? I feel like if you put your name on that dotted line, you're serving your country. I would like to open it up to anyone who has served their country. I don't know where everyone else feels on that, but I think that would be.
So I gotta get a point of clarity here. So to me, what I read there is people who've served in any military, or are we talking about, because again, if you're a veteran, you served, right? What's the distinction?
I would say any branches of our military service.
Which, again, I guess, like, how is that different than being a veteran? Because you served.
I guess I'm not understanding the question.
Well, it says expanded to anybody, including any deceased individual who served. They would be a veteran of a war at some point, so they are a veteran by definition, right? What am I missing?
Right, they don't,
Yes.
just by passing, they're not like a current veteran,
Sure.
I guess, alive in that sense, I guess.
Yeah, I just don't understand
Yeah.
the distinction.
No, I just,
See what you're saying.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I can see,
Yeah,
like,
why
maybe,
have we
maybe
not
people who
been
served
doing
in
that?
other militaries and other, like, to me, that's where I start going towards, like, anybody who's ever served in the military, in a military at some point. But if you're a veteran, you're alive or dead, you're a veteran.
Yes, and I'm sorry, so that should be, the distinction should be veterans or active members.
Oh, active
Yes.
military.
Oh,
Gotcha.
okay.
There's the distinction. Gotcha, yeah.
There it is.
Which again, you're,
Gotcha.
And just to clarify, going back to the software, so we do have a member of our communications team here, and he wanted to just give a little bit more details. So that software is, the total cost is $2,500. They are covering the $2,000, and we would be looking at the remainder $500.
and it's just a payment software that, for the internet, for the portal? I mean, is it unique to the GUI that we're using? What's the distinction? What makes this necessary, I guess, to understand why?
Madam Chairman, I'm just going to explain it really quickly because I'm running the cameras in the meeting, so I'm trying to go back there. So the city of Saginaw uses a system called STW. That is an old, outdated ERP system.
Got it.
It does not allow online payments right now. The rec center uses something called Sportsman. That's not allowing online payments either. So our big push when I was running special events was vendors wanted to pay online. So this was the software that we used, and we saw more engagement for those vendors. We saw an opportunity to extend this out to the Veterans Brick, and the current special events team, they're looking into using this one as well. So that's why we're saying, hey, if you're using it, let's go ahead and extend it out to other departments and other uses so they could take in benefits of that. Because previously, the Veterans Brick, you had to pay it with cash or check at the desk. We live in 2026.
Yeah.
I barely carry $20 to pay for parking when I go to a special event. So that's why this system was integrated. We are moving to a new ERP system. We don't know that timeline for that or if it can accept online payments. But this was by far, I think other cities use it. I don't know what other cities use around us, but I believe Rowlett, Keller, and other cities have used this system as well. But this system can be expanded to do other things as well. They actually have QR codes attached to this platform as well. Okay. So yeah, there you go. There's the synopsis of it. So I'm going to run my cameras again.
All right. Thank you.
Pedro. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. All right.
Did I catch you said the new ERP system, they're not sure if it will do online payments either?
What was that?
He said something like the new ERP system, he wasn't sure if it was gonna do online payments either. Did I catch that?
Yeah, for the future system, wasn't 100% sure if it was gonna be doing payments or not.
Nice.
Sorry, I forgot my keys.
Oh, no.
Okay, so other departments are looking to eventually start using this current system that we are using for our bricks.
Does our exposure go down as other departments pick up more of the tab? I mean, does that number increase, decrease potentially?
I would have to get back to you on whether that would change.
Now I'm just being pedantic.
All right.
Okay, so it sounds like y'all are okay with the fee staying at $50, right? We're not gonna see an increase in that.
Yes.
We will be sticking to the eligibility requirements to be current residents, veterans. Do you want that to also be active members?
Well,
Or just
we would include them, but not that you don't have to be currently active.
Correct.
We would
The
include the
veterans.
current
Yeah,
members.
Or active.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
service members, I think, would be all service members, right?
Yeah.
Current, active, or otherwise.
And do we permit an honorarium, honorable brick for those who have served who are, and is being purchased by a Saginaw resident, even if the person's name on the brick is not a Saginaw resident?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
super, thank you.
Okay, and we will be moving to installing those on a quarterly basis,
Okay.
correct?
All right. Are we summed up on this? Are there any other questions you have for us that we need to answer?
One other thing, so for the software, we will be coming back to y'all, giving you options,
Okay.
right? Okay.
Oh, I don't know that were we asking for different options for the software? It's getting awful deep into the weeds
Well,
as to
if-
how the payment's collected.
If
but-
there's an existing software we're using for payments somewhere else that we can add to, I think that's worth exploring. And then is that what you're talking about, Maria, looking into that? And then she'll get back to us and let us know, hey, there's nowhere else that we can put this. We have to keep this $500 software.
Yeah, that's what I got kind of from what I thought Pedro was saying when he
Yeah.
came.
I feel like though, that what he said is this was the best and only option, right? Is that,
At this time, until they get that ERP system replaced,
Only.
perhaps,
yeah, it's the only one that they can do what we need to do with,
which is online.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which sounds like that shoehorns us into, like, this is our only choice today, and then we have the ERP solution tomorrow,
Okay.
Yeah.
potentially, maybe.
Yeah.
And this $500 is coming out of city budget, correct?
No, we.
Or it's coming out of our budget?
We are requesting that it comes out of the Parks Board Fund.
Sounds like it is
If
what it
it's
is.
the only, yeah, if it's the only option going forward, then I think we're fine with the $500.
Yeah.
We're fine finding a better solution too, though.
That too. Okay, let's see. What specifically has to be in the motion? Just the approval of everything discussed? Okay. So I will open up the floor for a motion.
I move that we keep the current brick cost to $50, allow people to purchase more than one for one honoree, and budget $500 for our part of the software for paying for it online.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And then we will be casting our votes. All right, and it passed. Thank you very much. All right, thank you, Maria. And moving on to item 2D, discussion and action regarding holding a booth at city events. Maria Hernandez.
Yes, ma'am. So at our last meeting, we discussed the Friends of the Park and the creation of that. One of your suggestions was for us to hold a booth at one of our city events, and that way we can try to get the word out there and recruit potential members for this organization. So I have 2 events that are coming up this month. We have the Independence Day celebration on June 27th, and we also have one of the farmers markets. So on your packet, it says the 25th, but it should say the 20th. And I'm sorry about that. But those are our 2 options for this month.
I like the idea of setting up at the Independence celebration. I will be in attendance, so I will be able to help out with that. I don't know what everyone else's schedule is, if they'll be able to come out.
I will be there.
Farmers market, you said it was the 20th?
So what would we be doing at the booth?
So we would have information regarding the Friends of the Park organization and trying to just let the residents know that this is an option for them, that they can reach out to staff, giving them a little bit more information on what their roles are, and letting them know that this is going to be created at the end of the year if they are interested. And that way we have a little bit more traction. As I stated in our last meeting, I have only received a handful of responses through my survey. So we don't have a lot of, based on that survey, we don't have a lot of interest in the community for the organization.
So we'll have a sign-up sheet where we can have name, email address, contact information to let them know once the ball starts rolling, all of that good stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes. I have it scheduled for 6 to 7 p.m., just for an hour, so that it's not too overwhelming and we're not there too early or too late, and we're missing the fireworks or
Yeah,
the
I think
taco
it's a
eating
good
contest.
time slot.
Okay.
So how would we, is this something that we hammer out the details later, or we do that now? Where would we meet up? Who is setting up? Do we have not a chart, but a shade covering? If we don't, I have one I can bring.
We do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. So I contacted the special events team, and they have tables for us, they have chairs, and they have what would you call it,
Like a canopy?
yes, exactly. So we would have a spot for us already designated. We wouldn't have to worry about any of that. And then we would also take care of any signage, just letting people know that the Parks Board is out there.
Yeah, we can use any of the sandwich boards and print something out and have something on there. That would be really great too.
Yes.
And then, would you still be looking for feedback on that survey that we were putting out? Can we have on the signage a QR code where you can scan that and it'll take you
Yes.
straight to the survey to fill it out?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I can send you all more details in the next week or so, and that way we know where to meet up. So far, it sounds like Timothy and Adele will be able to attend. Jane, would you be able to join us?
Sorry. On some of that, I may be bringing my grandchildren, and I may not have the ability just to hang out. I may be
That's okay. I mean,
with 5 kids, so. Not sure. Sorry.
yeah, no worries.
Till looking at my calendar, I can't commit right this minute.
Bless you. Okay. And I will send it out to our other board members and see
Okay.
if they are available.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah, I can send that out.
Okay, and I am open to a motion for approval to set up a booth at the Independence Celebration.
I move to set a booth at the Independence Day celebration.
Do I
I
have a
s-
second?
I second.
Alright, cast your votes. And it passed. Thank you. And that puts us at item 2E, discussion and action regarding future fishing activities at Belt Mill Ponds. Maria Hernandez.
Yes, ma'am. So let me pull up that presentation. So it's the same one as our last meeting. Let me see. Okay. So we are looking at the ponds at Belt Mill. So we discussed that we were looking into partnering with the Texas Department of Parks and Wildlife. So they have a program where they stock ponds in the fall and winter. And after speaking with their biologist, they confirmed that those ponds at Belt Mill would be a good candidate for this program. That we would have to let them know that we are interested, and that way we can be on their list. They come with a fee, and something that we discussed at the last meeting. So today, we are recommending that we purchase up to $3,000 in fish, so it'd be $2 per fish. So that would cover that $500 to $1,000, or 500 to 1,000 fish that is recommended by their biologist.
Where did we land on figuring out the parking situation?
So that is something that we will be covering in our next item.
Oh.
This would only be for the stocking program, and that way we can go ahead and get on the list.
Okay. I'm good with this. I think it's a great idea. I think it's the first step to accomplishing the goal of having a fishing event.
And even if we don't have a fishing event, are these 2 ponds sufficient to keep those fish alive?
Yes.
Rainbow trout will not survive the winter.
Yeah, I was just gonna say some of them won't, but.
Yeah,
they'll
rainbow
put a lot of
trout
the other
don't.
stuff in there.
But it's for fishing. I mean, the whole idea is to get them the challenge.
So theoretically, if we say yes, the rainbow trout go in, and we're not able to get all our ducks in a row to accomplish this fishing event before the winter, what are the odds that those fish are going to survive into next year to be able to hold an event?
Those trout won't survive once the temperatures start getting to hotter temperatures.
Okay.
They're specifically for colder temperatures. Texas Parks and Wildlife, they do this at multiple parks throughout the state. I've actually participated in some of them, so it gets pretty active, and the majority of the fish probably get caught, I would say.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that really go out and harvest these fish, so. And you're gonna get people from outside the city. This will be posted on the Texas Parks and Wildlife website. of
Okay.
When they will stock those ponds on down the line, so people watch those. They're all on different days, different dates. People will show up to participate in this.
So that was going to be one of my next questions is, you know, even though if we are not able to put this event on, it's still a service that we're offering to the community. You're able to come out and fish. And would we be able to put out like a blast on all the socials to let people know, hey, we just got fish, come on down, come in, you know what I mean? So it's getting used and people are catching these fish?
Yes, and I want to say, we feel confident that we'll be able to host this event. We
Okay.
really feel confident with gaining parking access. It'll be more visible in the next item that'll be presented to you.
Okay, perfect.
We will be able to provide a restroom facility with our trailer on down the line. So we feel very confident in being able to provide this as a nice event for the city of Saginaw.
Wonderful. All right, that's great news.
I love that we got fish.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions before I open up the floor for a motion? All right.
So,
Oh.
adding to the recommendation.
Yes.
So we also want to purchase sinking fish food for the fish that have already been stocked in the pond
So
that we
it would
covered.
be-
Let me pull-
The 3,000 would go to Texas Parks and Wildlife for the fish, and then what's the additional cost for the food?
So that would be $800.
Okay,
So we would be purchasing 20 bags, 10 per pond. And that's something that, after speaking with our Public Works Director, he said that that's something that can last us for the rest of the year.
Okay.
So that we wouldn't have to repurchase.
okay, perfect. I'm okay with that, so we would add that into the motion as well.
Yes.
All right, floor is open to the motion.
I move that we authorize staff to get with Texas Parks and Wildlife for an amount not to exceed $3,000 for the fall-winter rainbow trout stocking program at Belt Mill Ponds, and the purchasing of an additional 20 bags of sinking fish food for a total cost of $800 for that item.
Second.
All right, there's a second, and we will be voting.
Interesting. There it is.
All right, motion passed. Thank you, everybody. And that puts us at item 2F, discussion and action regarding design concepts for Saginaw Ponds. Jonathan Campbell, Kimley Horn.
Chairman and Board, I would like to just sort of set the table for this discussion
Oh.
tonight, if you don't mind. We have received a lot of feedback over the years of having distinct ponds in our park system for people to use. And of course, the Belt Mill that we just discussed is the first one that's sort of set up for us to be able to do this. We've been talking with Kimley Horn, which is why Jonathan is here tonight. He's going to be presenting concepts of some new ponds.
Okay.
Staff is very excited about this. I hope y'all, Jonathan will be able to explain the entire vision. As in Belt Mill, we were worried about parking and things of that nature. One of the ponds that staff is highly excited about would be in Willow Creek Park. He'll go into full details. It'll be a newly built pond, but obviously it'll be closer to the switchyard area, which already has adequate parking, has the food truck park, has things.
Bathrooms.
It would just be a beautiful amenity to the city of Saginaw. But we're in favor of all four concepts, and we're excited for Jonathan to present these concepts to y'all tonight.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the time. I know that looking at the time, it's already 8:30. I've only got about 3.5 hours worth of presentation here, so hopefully that's okay. Were you going to pull something up on the screen? So while she's getting that pulled up, I guess further introduction, Kimley Horn, I'm a landscape architect. And yeah, as Jared said, we've met with them a number of times at this point. Want to kind of take a step back whenever we were asked to come in and engage on at least the conceptualization of how do we get people out to fish, and this is on the back of, we talked a lot about nature and the, inclusion in nature, and you talked about like, little kids going and, getting in the water and, and experiencing that, so we started looking at that from like a bigger standpoint and saying, okay, well, until we really start looking at the individual ponds, we wanted to understand, like, what are we trying to accomplish? So, I started asking some questions of like, okay, well, we've got some existing bodies of water. Nobody at that time said, hey, don't look at any new bodies of water. So we said, hey, we'll look at that too. But is this a use for kids? Is this a use for adults? Is this just passive fishing? Is it active fishing, like we're talking about tournaments potentially? So then we started looking at, okay, well, the bodies of water that we have, and maybe I have a little bit of background. My dad studied to be a fisheries biologist, so I got this stuff pounded into me, through my whole adolescence, and looking at, water depth, water temperature, water replacement, what habitat is out there, what habitat isn't out there, what is the access to the water, safety elements, which we'll get into some of those discussions as well regarding either the shape and arrangement of the existing pond or of this new one that we're proposing. So those are a number of things that we were looking at from a survivability of either what fish are out there, what we may stock moving forward. Just as the previous presentation talking about rainbow trout, that's an awesome, advantage to have those come in. But again, that's not a reoccurring unless Texas Parks and Wildlife come out and restock. So we were looking at options for that, as well as the list of like the bluegill and the largemouth bass and flathead catfish and some of the minnows that we know will, help feed and reproduce. So you get year over year experience with that fishing as well. So whenever we looked at some of the ponds that are existing, we looked at Heather Ridge, Fellowship Baptist Church pond. And so I'm actually, I know that that's the big nice one that everybody wants to look at, but if you wouldn't mind flipping to the other ones, we looked at those two along with Belt Mill and said, like, okay, what could you do at each individual pond? Do you mind flipping to the other ones? I think if you just hit next up at the top, instead of 1, it would be 2, 3, and 4. But if you have them in front of you, you can see, we had quite a bit of discussion of, for instance, on the Heather Ridge Park pond, there is access there, but we looked at that and said, okay, if we were going to spend a lot of money, for a large expanse of pond, what challenges are going to be presented? There is automatic water replacement, just because it is on channel with drainage. But you're at the back of a neighborhood. So back to a security standpoint, does that mean that it's bad to go back there? No, not at all. But in the case of some emergency or some event, you don't have as much visual exposure. It's also behind a bunch of people's houses, so you've got, that component there too. Does that mean it's not viable for a potential fishing pond? No, not at all. Absolutely viable, but we need to have access. Then we looked at Belt Mill and said the same thing. Like me growing up country boy, would I take my daughters out and fish at Belt Mill? Absolutely. Is it going to give me this feeling like, oh, I'm, in the woods? No, it's not, but there's a lot more visibility. Safety concern there, you're right by you're at an intersection of two, collector streets. So that's something that we took into account. But same thing, there's no parking. Then whenever we looked at the Fellowship Baptist Church, similar, we don't, I'll say we, the city doesn't currently own that, But we looked at that as a potential as well. It's the smallest of the three at about 3/4 of an acre, but same thing, right off of Saginaw Square Boulevard, there's about a 3-foot retaining wall. So again, access there too. Easy pickings, in our opinion. We looked at if we just added parking to each one of these, that would give access to each pond right now, that you could go out and you could fish and have either, not necessarily big events, small experiences for folks at each one of these ponds. And we thought about that from a standpoint of, we know that there's a big desire for the fishing opportunity, so that gets, that going right now. And what that does is hopefully buy us a little bit of time to say, okay, where would we go in for, the bigger impact? And I go back to, nobody said, hey, don't create a brand new pond, but we looked at it and said, well, why wouldn't we create something to where instead of trying to bring in a ton of parking and restrooms and shade and all of these other elements into one of these other ponds that could they fit? Yes, but not ideal. Why not utilize Willow Creek Park? And whenever we looked at it from, just a general design standpoint, we said a lot of this park is in the floodplain. So with that in mind, we said, okay, well, if we dig a pond, we can't put that dirt back in the floodplain unless it's taken out of the floodplain. So to explain that a little bit, you can add capacity to a floodplain, but you can't take it away. So we want to, there would need to be some type of high-level flood study done before we said, hey, let's go through the full design analysis. But there is a section, and I don't know, you might go ahead and flip up to that, and I'll turn around. I've got a little laser pointer when she gets back to the overall, the first one. But there's a section, we just looked at the FEMA flood study or FEMA floodplain. Okay, there you go. So I'll do this so you can hear me, and I'll point. Is it not going to work now? Well, dadgummit. There we go. Maybe. Well, that's anticlimactic. I can't even point. I'm sorry. Here, I'll come around to the front. I thought this was man, I'm missing all of them. Okay. So closer to the plan south, there's a section that, based off the overall FEMA flood map, shows that's closer to the neighborhood to the south. That looks like it is not in the floodplain. The majority of this area is in the floodplain. Now, we know also, because of a lot of these that we've worked on, we would not recommend doing an on-channel pond, which just to the plan north of this, there is a drainage way. Now, you would think, man, that would be great. Well, we could, use that drainage to refill water. But if you do that, you have to go through a water rights permit, and it is not guaranteed that that gets approved, especially these days. Because what that is you're saying, I'm going to impound this water, but then in order to do that, you have to have some type of refill recharge, which is why we put it off channel. So again, it's not that the actual or the existing stream drains into it. This would be refilled by a couple of things. One, the drainage that comes from the residential neighborhood to the west. And then two, we talked to Jared and his team that these water tanks, they have to be, what, Jared, I can't remember. What did you say that they had to, you recirculate those and have to outfall those periodically, correct?
Yes, we do drain those down periodically.
So, we're trying to do this ideally without the necessity of having to drill a well. If that was the case, we'd have to go down that path. But we feel like with rainwater and the potential recharge from the adjacent water tanks, that this would be viable. Now, again, looking at in detail, we said, because we actually explored some of these options of fish feeders and habitat and the shade pavilion that is immediately adjacent here and a fishing dock at these other locations. But again, we said, man, you're really trying to, I'll say shoehorn some of those elements into lesser quality ponds that you would have to still create some parking and create ADA access, which all of this park already has. So there's a lot of synergy with what's going on in Willow Creek Park already, that this just adds to those elements that are going out there. So we do have proposed out here fish feeders. We've got some boulder rock outcroppings where, kids or adults can step out on and kind of fish in different areas. And in concept, we've generally placed those to where, I always think about whenever I take my 4-year-old daughter fishing, the goal is to get her to catch a fish. So it is more about catching than it is fishing, right? So in order to get that activity and get that, sense of pleasure for the little kids, you can go and strategically throw the bobber next to the fish feeder, which is where all the fish go, and hopefully increase the chance ability that they would catch a fish. Now, maybe somebody like me might go out there and I would want to not fish off the fish feeder, but have other areas within the pond as well. You will see that we've generally shown also some contour signatures within the pond, and that's for a couple different reasons. We know that, from a temperature standpoint, it gets hot here. You need some deeper water for the existing fish to be able to survive, especially depending on the temperature and the amount of water replacement. So we've got an area in this pond that is kind of to the plan northeast, which is actually the southeast, but where it gets to about 11 feet deep. And we like to do ponds to where you have at least an area between or somewhere at least as deep as 7 feet deep, because the deeper you get, the darker it is and the cooler it stays. But we want some areas that's on the left side of the pond that's shallower. So those would be for areas where fish would go and spawn and help that reproductive cycle of the fish in the pond. So from a high level standpoint, we looked at, like I say, water replacement. Where would we dig the pond from a location standpoint? We've got a estimation in here for some haul off of the dirt, because we don't want to assume that we can just put that all back in the floodplain. So we've accounted for that. And then, like I say, some of the other accoutrement around it of a fishing dock, some bench pad locations, and then the elements within the pond, as well as pond aerators. Now, to be determined if those are actual vertical fountains or subsurface aerators, but we want to make sure that water stays aerated, because that's going to help with the fish survivability. So there's high level. What questions do you have?
You were talking about the importance of depth.
Mhm.
Do we have the depth for the other 3 options of bodies of water that we have on here?
We don't, not that I'm aware of. Do we have the current depth of those other bodies of water? We would probably be able to get the belt mill pretty easily, because they're fairly new ponds, so there should be some grading plans for those. We could probably estimate for Heather Ridge and the Fellowship Baptist Church ones, but if need be, you could get a surveyor to go out there and do a bathymetry survey, but we don't currently have those depths.
We had discussed last year or year before the pond off of McElroy. Might be what you consider the Heather Ridge
That's Heather
pond.
Ridge, yes.
And that was going to be something like 12 million. So where's, how come we can get this one for 1.1? I'm just curious what kind of difference, because we were trying to keep that other one as nature and
I think that,
unmanufactured as
Sure.
possible.
Possible.
I think some of the big cost in that one was trying to cross, there was like a tributary and a lot of grading to be done in that area to create a much bigger parking area, a much more significant drive. There was a lot of lighting, there was docks, shade, a lot of things that went into that one, that made it just much more cost prohibitive, which is why we kind of took a step back and said, I think some of the implementation of plant material too, we made some estimations going, we don't have to get as big and mature a plant material day one. Nobody's going anywhere, so let's let this thing grow in and take more of a phased approach to that. Also like what we've estimated with like the shade covering here and the dock is less significant than what was estimated at that other one as well. So we just try to take a look at this of what's a little bit more, I'll say, easily achievable from a budget standpoint. Not that the other one wasn't achievable. It was just obviously a much bigger price tag and trying to get a bigger impact day one. So there was, as we were looking at the other location, like thinking about fire access, ADA access, there's no trail around the other side of that pond. So there was a lot of factors that went into that. And some things to, I'll say, upgrade the pond, but with some of these elements just to a higher level.
Because we have heard from citizens that they do want more green spaces in Saginaw, and so this could be a green space. And I don't know all the details on what's ADA compatible, but would crushed granite pathways be ADA compliant or not?
It depends on which RAS you use. There are some registered accessibility specialists that do the TDLR and TOS review. We work with a couple of them that do see as long as you compact it and put some type of tackifier and that it's not on a slope more than 3%. We don't recommend that because of just erosion in general. But the ADA piece, every element around the pond is not required to meet ADA. You just have to create situations to where a non-able-bodied person, which could be visually impaired, hearing impaired, or mobility impaired, to give them a similar experience within the park. So, for instance, there could be like one of these on the far plain south. Based off of grading, we think that we could get like a little concrete pad close to the pond edge so they could fish, and we'll say like for this scenario, a non-mobile person, or they could go out on the fishing dock, but they don't have to get to the entire perimeter of the fishing pond.
Because that could be how we also incorporate more, some of the vision that we had for that, the other one off of McElroy. Some of the vision that we had on there was to be unspoiled wildflower fields.
Yeah.
Where at some of our booths, we could have children making wildflower balls.
Seed bombs.
Yep, seed
Yeah.
bombs. And then be the ones to participate in launching those bombs. But this could be that beautiful, the vision that we had from that one marrying into the infrastructure that's already there.
Absolutely.
And less is best, like not over manufacture it, so to speak.
Well, this gives you something too that you could continue to call it chip away at or phase things into it as well, because you have so many of those facilities already there in the park.
I'm very surprised with the cost because, like Jane was saying, we were quoted $10 million for the one at Heather Ridge, and just going over some of the itemized list here, we're saving on having to put in bathrooms and having to put in all of these extra things that were not existing at Heather Ridge that are already existent here within Willow Creek.
Yeah,
So-
I think on the other one, maybe the restroom facility was a little over $1 million, which,
Yeah.
again, like from the design side, it still kind of blows my mind that, you can build a beautiful mansion for the cost of a commercial restroom, but they are expensive, so.
And we're saving on not having to put more pavilions and more benches. All of that stuff is already existing there. in Willow
Exactly.
Creek Park. So I do see where we're creating the savings. Now, under challenges, you have listed impact on an existing stream. What would that look like?
Well, so that was where we were saying, like, we should not be providing or creating an impact on the existing stream. Because it was asked, well, could we put it on channel? So that was us just saying, like, hey, you could. I'm not saying you can't. It's just a very arduous process to go through a water rights permit. We did one recently in Frisco for 3 on-channel ponds, and it took 28 months to get that approved. And at the very, like, literally the 11th hour, we thought it was going to get denied. So it's just they're not being approved nearly as often as they used to be.
Is that even if they have an opening at, both ends, with in and then out?
So in short, and I'm not a hydraulic engineer, but I can at least, I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express, so I can talk about it. So in short, if you're impounding water, so think about if you were at the end of the stream, and in this case, the Trinity would be at the ultimate end of the stream, you cannot keep any water, like a water droplet that would have fell in that stream, from ultimately getting downstream. So in order to impound that water, even though you're saying, like, well, hey, yeah, whatever comes in, we're letting it drain out. Well, now you've got more absorption because you're holding water in a location. You've got more evaporation because now you've got a body of water, and the wind, lapping the water, that's going to evaporate. So if you get an on-channel pond, generally you have to have some type of makeup water, albeit a well usually, that says you monitor, and you have to provide monitoring to TCEQ, that any water that came in, that you have provided calculations based off of different months of the year and temperatures and all that, that any makeup water that you need to put in there so you still get your water downstream. So it's a not saying you can't do it. We wouldn't recommend it in this situation.
And would there be much of a risk of, during heavy rainfall, losing some of the fish down Willow Creek?
Potentially.
But not significant?
Yeah, not a significant risk. It would be like any other pond. For instance, like Belt Mill, there's going to be an overflow. So could some fish make their way out? Yes, but I don't think they're, like, this is our, it's not Finding Nemo and they're trying to make it back to the ocean. So yeah, yes, there is a risk of that, but it's insignificant generally. There might be more than $2 a fish.
Chairman and Board, we did pull up the Google Earth view of the Willow Creek area, if you want to get a good visual of where that pond would lie. If you can see the 2 water tanks where the cursor is currently, the pond would go just north of that. So that's how close you would be to parking. So right where the cursor, yeah.
Man, it won't show on the actual screen. That's what it is.
So you're asking today for us to ratify the budget for us to install this?
So what staff is wanting to propose from this is the new bond that was passed. Any money that may be available after we accomplish what we set out to accomplish there, go towards this.
But also we have some temporary ones that are listed here with some small numbers.
Yes.
Is that something that needs to be approved to effectively make the event in the fall occur? As far as possibly the one at Belt Mill, is that something that y'all are needing approval to spend that money to make that parking lot, or we're going to do it without it the first time?
I will have to have some further discussions with Public Works Director on that above, but we've been in contact with the Tarrant County. We have a good relationship with them. May be able to do a temporary style parking lot, but we do hope to use for all four of these potentially. You're looking at a total of 1.3 million if you add them all up, a little over that. Jonathan, am I correct on that?
In general.
Of potential bond money on the newly passed bond.
Okay.
So for each one of these potential projects, we're looking at 1.3, and we're just trying to figure out where we want to allocate those funds and invest into making this fishing pond happen.
Yes.
Okay. If we're looking at the same cost across the board for all of these locations, it would make more sense to me to put it in Willow Creek Park because of all the amenities and things that we already have there. So we would switch the focus in our master plan, because in the master plan, we have Heather Ridge as a potential site for a park and a fishing park. This would take its place, essentially. And we would obviously no longer go down the route of Heather Ridge for the fishing, and we would focus on fishing pond in Willow Creek Park as a priority.
I would, yes, I think you would put Willow Creek as the priority
Okay.
over this, just because of everything that it already has, that we would have to add to Heather Ridge, in essence. And you're saving a lot of money because of that.
Okay.
But the other ones already have the water and have the natural design of it, aside from putting in that parking lot, you know, that gravel parking lot makes it rudimentary or rustic kind of, but certainly not the nicety of the 1.1 million one, but
Right. We would still
can
like to
scratch an
add-
itch.
Yes, we would still like to add a small parking lot to
Yeah.
Heather Ridge, to have access to that.
Okay.
Because, you know, future-wise, add on and build on to that as we can as well.
Yeah.
I like the idea. I just don't know if I can today say 100%, okay, once we're done accomplishing the parks that needed renovating, we will put the rest of the money into this, because things arise, things come up, and like with the previous bond funds, you know, we were able to do the repairs to the roof. That was something that had come up that we were not allocating for. So, I mean, what is everyone else's thoughts? I like the idea of if we move forward with putting a pond in Saginaw, I like the idea of it being in Willow Creek Park. I just don't know if I can say 100% that whatever's left over with our bond money, this is what we're going to be doing.
Because we still have some outstanding stuff with
Things.
even William Houston Park that I don't think we were going to be able to afford in the 6 million necessarily fully what we wanted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know that we have gotten feedback about needing more sports, more like baseball fields. That's huge within the community as well. But I also know that fishing is huge within the community as well. So I don't know if this is something that maybe we could put out a survey and see, would people rather have a baseball field or a fishing pond? I'm not exactly sure if I can definitively say today, 100%, this is where we should allocate the rest of our bond money.
Well, we probably need to, we already have done a priority list of the top 3 things that we presented to city council.
Yes.
So we probably need to get our finances down for what it's going to cost. What are we going to spend on William Houston Park? What are we going to spend on Sagewood? And then let's see what we have left over. We still have 300,000, is that right, left over from the other
That's what
bond?
they're saying, something right.
And so we have 6, and so maybe the things that we told the public that we were going to use the bond money for, we need to prioritize getting the X dollar squared away on those first. This is great, and thank you
Absolutely,
for
this is
all
amazing.
your work. Yes, it would
may
be
I-
a real,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, it'd be a positive addition to our community.
Absolutely.
What I was going to say is like, you know, if there was an option that you said, well, okay, well, you know, we don't want to spend the whole 1.15 right now, like you could easily go through the design process of just the excavation to create the pond. And, you know, again, that could be something that you could phase in, but that way you could get the pond kind of in and quote unquote growing in. And not try to bite off the entire chunk at one time. Because the majority of the design and engineering cost is going to be with, you know, the mass grading, the flood study that would likely have to be done. So there's some of those things that you would do, well, you would potentially do regardless, but maybe you don't do all of the other elements, but that pond could be there and, like I say, start growing in as you determine, okay, well, hey, maybe we do have some more funds. Let's go ahead and build a little extra sidewalk. Let's go ahead and build the dock and then, you know, kind of chip away at it that way as well.
In the spirit of piecemeal, why not put the parking lot in Belt Mill?
Put a parking lot in Belt Mill and then make that our pond that we do these events
Right.
and stuff at.
Right.
I think for the event that we're trying to do, it would work at Belt Mill, but in our master plan, we were wanting to create a pond where you could fish with, like Jane was saying, where it's more natural and you're in the elements and you feel like you're really outdoorsy.
Agreed.
So I would like to still keep that option open and still out of one of these 3 excluding Belt Mill, still have an option for a more natural kind of feeling for a pond. I don't want to completely say we go all in on Belt Mill and then we don't need to think about a pond.
Yeah, no, and by no means was that my proposal, right?
Okay.
I think short-term, long-term, right? Absolutely, this is a great idea. We move forward with that at some point down the line. But in the interim or the short term, we look at, hey, what's our immediate need, right? We've got an event coming up, we need parking.
Yeah.
You know, I looked at this morning just for fun, and I would tell you guys the most logical parking spot right now for the Belt Mill is Walmart parking lot and shuttling. Because
Yeah.
that's the only thing that truly can accommodate. There's actually some free and some parking people around the corner and everything right now. And so I think about,
The school is out there, but that's a far distance to walk.
well, but it's not just that, it's also the ability to get out and turn onto the road and then come back and navigate that and make it
Okay.
convenient for people and then access. And right now, that's not a great location for access. And
Definitely.
so really, if that is the plan, you know, that's a very reasonable price point, even though it's just a gravel parking spot or a gravel parking lot. Why wouldn't we potentially explore going forward with at least that aspect of it, if that's an option?
Okay, I like that. Did you, Jared, have you spoken to, what was the business that was right across the crosswalk from Belt Mill? I know that was a
That's
potential.
the train yard, right?
That's Trinity Industries.
Trinity.
Yeah.
No, because I know that Randy Newsom was going to reach out to Don Allen, who owns the property around the ponds as well.
And see if we can just
And
park
grant
there.
access to that. But we will be, and we feel confident we'll be able to get that done.
Okay. So, like Scott was saying, for purposes of putting on this event that we're trying to get done, that's the avenue that we would most likely go down, is parking around the pond that is there at Belt Mill, because we're gonna be able to have those conversations with the owner of the
Yes.
property.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a picture of it up on the screen if you need to see that.
So if we are confident that this is something that we are wanting to do for the fishing event, I agree that we should put the gravel parking lot in. Or are you
They're not ready yet.
talking about,
Thanks.
when you're talking about that Randy's gonna have a conversation with someone, is it specifically for this gravel parking lot, or is it for something else?
It's for the parking.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So this is just a hypothetical, right at this point? This is what we want to do, but we don't have approvals, we don't have any way to move forward with it at this time, correct?
I know that some talks have been done, but I don't think there's anything final.
Okay.
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 So what is it that you are wanting from us today, from these renderings and information?
So what we would like to move forward with is, if you like these concepts, to move forward with Kimley Horn designing these, and then also, you know, we can definitely go into further talks of a potential bond, but, you know, bringing this before council, and garner their support as well on this.
Okay. And this would be the design concept for just one of these locations? We have to choose a location, or are we saying, okay, to design concepts for the multiple locations and make decisions off of that?
I mean, you can, you know, we can rank these, look at all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a jump.
I hate to spend too much on design for the Willow Creek one because, you know, that's still, I mean, we're still a ways from knowing whether we're going to have the monies to do this. To me, designing it is perhaps ahead of ourselves on that.
A little early.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. I like the idea. I
do too,
love the information. I appreciate it. We just have so much more on our plate right now that we're needing to accomplish that I would like to focus on that and accomplish those goals with what we set out to do before putting in more funds into a maybe.
But how would you feel about, like, if we got more clarity about the Belt Mill being able to, in the near future, being able to say, yeah, we could approve spending $33,000 on
Oh, that definitely,
that
yeah.
parking to help that be okay?
Yes, that 100%. I'm just talking about like the larger, $1 million concept of creating this fishing pond somewhere. But definitely we should need to be exploring that for Belt Mill, especially because we're wanting to put this event on.
Okay.
What does everyone think about that?
I'm curious of the 1.1 for the park, or for the new pond, is that inclusive, does that include the design, or is that,
That is not included in the design fees.
so that's just the build out? The funds?
Hard cost plus, we put a 15% contingency because potential inflation and just timing. Yeah.
So do we have an estimate, I'm assuming we don't have any estimates or ideas yet as to what the design cost would be, correct?
I don't know.
Usually
No, we-
10% or?
Yeah, generally. We can put that together and bring it back to you if that would be beneficial.
It sounds like we're trying to get to the point where we at least get the design function going. We need to know what the numbers were for the design function. Right? So to me, that's my sticking point. It's like, what would that cost us? Call it 10%. I can do the math on that, but we can probably break that down from that point.
Absolutely.
So do we need a motion to table this next?
I think so. I mean, is that what you guys, I think we need more information to be able to move forward. Yeah. I would agree with that.
Do you want us just to rank it based on, like, order of doing it or kind of what our feelings are on that? But it's also preliminary.
I think maybe we should table this to the next meeting and have more concrete information
Exactly.
before we
gravel.
make that decision.
Okay. All right, I will open up the floor for a motion.
I vote that we table item 2 to our next meeting when we gather more information.
A second?
right, please cast your votes. All right, thank you so much for all the
Thank you very
information.
much.
This is very exciting.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Jonathan.
All right, and then that brings us to item 4A, expenditure fund report.
Yes, ma'am. So I provided an updated report, and that was printed out for y'all. So it has the same details. I just added a little bit more of the pending expenditures, so things that we will be looking at in the next couple months coming in, so that holiday displays that we will be seeing in the fall, the additional donations for the Independence Day event, the sponsorship, the fireworks show, so that second payment that will be coming through. We also have $61 remaining of the Cinco de Mayo sponsorship and the gift card and certificate frame. So for May, we have a total of $14,000, $798 for May donations. And then we have our Cinco de Mayo sponsorship. So that was $700 for entertainment and then $440 for event supplies. And then at the bottom, you also have all of our expenditures for our 2025 and 2026 board budget. So we have a remaining balance of approximately $23,367 within our board budget. But for unallocated funds, we have a total of $110,088.90 of unallocated funds.
Does anyone have any questions about the expenditure fund report? All right, and then that will put us at item 4B, future agenda items. I would like to make sure that at our next meeting in July, we're getting new members, correct? So I would like to set up, maybe after we receive our new members, a workshop to prioritize our 2026 bond roster, what we'd like to accomplish, what order we're kind of looking at, and to familiarize all of the new people coming in so they can get on the same page with master plan, what we've discussed prior to this, what's going to be allocated for the bonds, so everyone's on the same page moving forward, because we're about to have a lot of very important decisions that are going to need to be made, and I'd like to make sure everyone's up to speed on where we stand.
Okay. We can schedule that.
Okay, perfect. And then, any of the cost estimates on the potential lighting going into Willow Creek Park near the volleyball court that we discussed last time, if we could just get any of those cost estimates on the potential lighting, and then the sand volleyball accessories of the bungee outlines. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add for the future agenda items?
Did we want to talk about spending, like, I think it was at the last meeting, talking about $500 or something like that for wildflower seeds? Because that would,
Our program.
I believe the fall is when they need to be spread. So, but we'd have to prepare and work with Public Works as far as what the no-mow areas would be, what would be the prep work for, if any, for that property, how to inexpensively just kind of do, stakes in the ground with a plastic chain, over it, and just with a little bit of signage. It shouldn't cost too much money, but
Yeah,
we
if
probably need to go ahead and know what we're going to do before it's already fall and it's too late.
Time.
Yes, and yes, ma'am, that is something that we started working on, as
Thank
well as
you.
the Purple Hearts that you had proposed.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. And with that, I will open up the floor for a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. All right, it passed at 9:12, Monday, June 15th. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
You got it.